that you would guide them and protect them. We just pray now that you would be with us throughout this meeting. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barb, do the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hill. Here. Chairman Fullwood.
Present.
Commissioner Hannah.
Here.
Commissioner Franklin.
Here.
Commissioner Cole.
Here. All right, make sure that your cell phones are turned off or on vibrate. Make sure the same thing. I want to tell the commissioners, if you want to talk tonight, you're allowed to take off your mask to talk. We're socially distanced and we have plexiglass between us, and the audience is several yards away, so we're okay. And it's hard to hear, even if you're speaking in the microphone, for people to hear you. So if you'd like to take off your mask when you speak, that's fine. You can put it back on if you so desire. Okay? Audience comments. The first one we have is Mr. Jimmy Deverly. Jimmy, you want to come forward, please?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I just wanted to, again, my name is Jimmy Deverly, long-time Nassau County resident, and...
Address, please.
I'm sorry?
Address?
95239 Amelia National Parkway, Burlington Beach, Florida, 32034.
Thank you.
Over the past several months, I've come before you guys to offer my assistance in, for court director, offering services at $1 a month for a short period of time, 6 to 9 months. And again, this is one last shot at this to see if you guys would be willing to move forward with this opportunity for you guys. I will say that, this is the time I've always seen the Port Authority really just working with blinders on. This is the time to take the blinders off, try something new, instead of trying to run this port as a status quo. Let's make a bold move. Let's make some bold decisions here. Come on. If you don't want my services, just say, hey, we're not going to take it. That's fine. But it feels like you're just pushing a rock up the hill. You guys are dragging along on this thing since I presented it to you in December. Let's make a decision. Somebody make a motion. You got new commissioners up here. Make a motion. You got old commissioners. Somebody make a motion. Let's move forward with this thing. If you don't want to make a motion on it, I'll resend my offer at the end of the night. But by God, quit pushing the rock up the hill. Let's make some progress with the port. I'm not saying I'm the end all here that's going to fix the port by absolutely no means what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I can help get it in the right direction. It may not work, but you know what? You're not obligated past 6 to 9 months on this. I mean, for crying out loud, take the blinders off. Let's govern. Let's try something new. Try something risky for once. If not, this port's going to fail. You're stuck in the status quo. Again, let's look at the 21st century. You guys are still running this port like it's the 19th century, for crying out loud. Yeah, I'm a little aggravated because of some of these older commissioners. I see you guys up here, you haven't done anything over the time you've been up here. The new commissioners, make some bold moves. This is why you got elected. You went to the people and said, hey, there's time for a change. People elected you guys for change. Step up to the plate, make a change. All right?
Yes, sir.
May not be me, it may be somebody else that you want to have come to the plate. It's fine, I'll support that. But by God, quit pushing the rock up the hill. I've came to you guys in December for crying out loud, and you guys are scared to make a decision. That's what's wrong with this port. That's why it's stuck in this rut. Let's make a decision on how we're going to move the port forward. You guys are governing the port. This guy right here, he works for you. You guys act like you work for him. That's not the way it should be. I've heard a couple of times that the commissioners want to see the books. He won't show them. Once you guys get up here and support, I sat here and watched Miss Hill get paraded last meeting for crying out loud. She begged for you to, hey, help her out. Danny, you turned your back on her. All you guys watched her get berated for 10 minutes. That's not how you support one another out there. Guys, come together. Let's run this port as a unity, all fine. If you don't want me, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm still offering my services, $1 a month, and I think I can help get it in the right
Time is
direction.
up, sir.
I'm wrapping it up there, Mr. Fuller. I appreciate you saying that. So with that, my offer still stands. I want to help this sport. I'm passionate. As you can see, I'm passionate about helping the sport. Thank you for your time.
Any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Dubberly, for coming out and sharing your thoughts and for your passion about the sport. And thank you for your comments about me too. I think that this board has considered several options for a port director, and I think that we will make a decision on that soon. And your passion does not go without notice. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I agree with Ms. Hill. I think, Mr. Dubberly is definitely here to try to help us, and I'm interested in moving forward with them, but as we spoke last week, you know, we're gonna look into the port business director and the operator together and see what our options are, but I definitely am interested in Mr. Dubberly 100%.
Anyone else? I have a comment. I want to be calm about this. I appreciate his passion, but I'm offended by some of the stuff that he said. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. As a matter of fact, I know he doesn't know what he's talking about. I've been on this board now for almost 13 years, and we've moved this board forward in more ways than one. We've contributed to this community, and we have a vision that we're gonna accomplish. And we're gonna do it the way we wanna do it and not be pressured by somebody that wants a job. We talked at our workshop about how we're gonna go about doing this, whether we're gonna hire a port director or hire a business manager. And we still haven't come to that decision. We'll talk more about it next month. We may even have a workshop in between. But we're gonna do it our way, and if you wanna wait, fine. If you don't, then withdraw. That's all I got to say. All right, next on the agenda. I'm gonna hold off on introducing these two because Chris is going to address a couple of things first, and then we'll call them up when you come up, Chris, to do your thing. Unless you want me to go ahead and get them up now. If they need to leave, we can do it now, or if they're gonna be around a while.
It's up to you, Mr. Chairman, they can wait.
Okay. Approval of minutes, February 10th, 2021, the monthly meeting minutes.
I make the motion we approve the minutes as written. I went over them and it looks sufficient to me.
I did have one change to the, on page 2, that the response, this is the last paragraph on page 2. Before Chairman Fuller appreciate the advice, the response from Attorney Sturgis was that I raised the conflict, and his response was that if I had an issue with it, if I thought it was a conflict, that I should make a complaint to the Board of Bar.
I'm sorry, you wanted to add that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other changes? Did I get a motion? You motion.
Gabbard. And she added to it.
Motion's been made and, to accept the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
And that's as amended?
As amended, I'm sorry.
Aye.
As amended. All opposed, no. Motion carries. No consent items.
No.
Pierre, you're up.
Raring to go.
Go ahead.
You have the financial report, I passed out the financial report at the start of the meeting. Everything's running smoothly, on budget. As expected, we received the monthly payment from the operator. And obviously, there's no unusual items or anything paid this month, any large items or anything like that in the normal treasurer's report. So the only item that, of significance this month that did go through the bank account, that Commissioner Fullwood approved, was the payment to Trans, in settlement of the, whatever, in settlement of the contract we had with them. And that money was wired into the account from Worldwide Terminals, and as I said, went right back out of the account. So you don't see that on here, but obviously that can go through the bank account this month.
So that's been all put to bed now?
Yes.
Sure.
We distributed the money as it was given to us. And I assume that final settlement,
Yeah, it's the final settlement, and Council Sturgis will be receiving the papers formally dismissing the action and releasing all
parties.
just on that date.
I say that because we only facilitated the payment. I didn't read any documents or anything as to what the,
Okay.
other than.
Here, you don't have on here what you have on here what the electric bill was, but what was it last month?
The electric bill at the customs house,
Yes.
I can't get into my,
I'd have to go back and look.
it was around $400 for the electric bill.
Okay. All right.
I mean, yeah, so that's 5 months is 2,076.
Right.
It's on
So it runs.
122.
That,
Oh, yeah, you want to know February or January?
January.
Okay, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look it up.
I think it was around, it's usually around the same.
Right, it runs about 400 a month, because like I said, 2,076 is for 5 months. And so obviously Customs House is page 2. You've already skipped ahead to that, and, again, Customs House, the only thing we're paying for is the cleaning service, and obviously the utilities, and the bug out pest control. No revenue coming in, as we discussed many times.
More than once.
Yeah. And the final page is the balances in the accounts. Again, no significant changes in the balances in any of the accounts. We did move some money from the money market to the operating account to because we paid the force council dues and several other large items. Obviously, we needed some money, so we moved $20,000, and one of the commissioners approved that. Commissioner Fullwood approved that. So.
You know what the money market interest rate is that we're getting?
No, I mean, less than 1%, probably less than 0.5%. I can teach you. It's just the normal money market rate for the bank, so it's not very good. We don't have it in any kind of long-term CDs or anything like that would maybe earn a little bit more interest. We don't have any.
Do you suggest us doing something different?
No, I mean, that's money we need potentially for operations and things like that. Remember, I mean, we're running a deficit this year in our budget, and so we'll be going down into that money a little bit.
And any other way invested, we'd have a time limit before we could.
Right, I mean, yeah, so to get any kind of good rate on a CD, you need to put it in at least 2-3 year CD. And we really can't lock it up for that kind of time period. Put it in a 1 year CD, you can get much more than a money market rate, so.
What is our run rate on our deficit, or will we be out
When we'll be out of,
at our current rate of spending?
obviously, we only approved, I think we talked about this before, we only approved the 1 year budget. So I have not done the calculation, but, you know, I think the deficit this year is 15,000, plus obviously the Customs House budget deficit. So, which is another 10,000, so we're about $25,000. So obviously we have 110 in the money market, 106 in the money market. So, at the current run rate,
4.5, 5 years.
probably 4 years.
If we don't put more in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what, as I said, there's no budget for the next few years, so I'll say that could change depending on what the budget is. That's all the activity happening in the financial sector. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you for allowing us to use your building
Yeah.
and offices for the interview.
Problem?
I was gonna say that, thank you,
Appreciate
and
that.
thank your boss for setting everything
Yeah,
up for us.
and obviously upstairs, obviously,
Yes.
the Domestic Business Bureau is having
Yeah.
them loan out their offices too, so, yeah.
Thank you, Pierre.
Barb, would you put a thank you card together for us for both places and make sure they get that?
All right, thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Any other questions, Pierre, Corsi? No? Okay. Stick around. Okay, our interim attorney, Sturgis, you wanna clear your desk?
Thank you. I want to begin with the last paragraph on my report. I need your advice. I need your instructions, which I think would include your advice on how to handle litigation strategy and settlement strategy on the basis of the proposal for settlement or offer of judgment that I described in that last paragraph. This is called a closed meeting, some people call it a shade meeting. If you want to do it, you have to get a court reporter there. The court reporter would have to transcribe everything, every single word it said. And that transcript would have to go.
Put your microphone up a little bit.
That transcript would have to go out, as a public record after the litigation was over. Now, I hesitated to ask or suggest a closed meeting because after all, we've been through an 8-hour mediation. I don't know what kind of strategy they haven't learned already. But because of the nature of a proposal for settlement or an offer of judgment, what I have to say will take maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but it will raise certain issues that I don't think y'all have discussed, such as the conditions that might go with the proposal for settlement, that sort of thing. So I'm happy to talk more about the suggestion, unless Judge Brandon has already talked to you about it, or if Jeb talked to you about it. But I do recommend considering a proposal for settlement, and I can see how the conversation will get into negotiation strategies and litigation strategies. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can you talk at this meeting about what you might wanna put in a proposal for settlement?
Well, this is one of the, sure, and this is one of those things that could lead to strategy discussions, but I'm happy to do that. You notice that I put in the suggested settlement $100,000. That was just to make the numbers look easy. If you anticipate the possibility, or if you want to settle for $100,000, you need to increase that amount by 33 1/3%. So let's say $133,000. So if the city recovered $100,000, then the judge would almost certainly award you your attorney's fees. One of the reasons I'm worried about, one of the reasons I'm concerned about the cost of the litigation is because IST is heading towards an appeal. And you remember though for those of you who listened in on the hearing, even Judge Falgren said he doesn't want a $100,000 case to turn into $250,000 because of attorney's fees.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the other thing, to answer your question more directly, is conditions. You know, we have to put, if there are any conditions to the offer, such as dismissal of this case, but then what after that? You can't put as a condition in a proposal for settlement some other right they may have is not directly connected to the litigation, for example. And the offer has to be in good faith, and those words, good faith, and reasonable conditions are nebulous words. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Also, if we make an offer and they refuse the offer, and then it goes, and we win the case, and they appeal, and they lose the appeal, they have to pay attorney fees for us.
Correct. That's the,
And the opposite,
no, if they make a proposal for settlement,
oh, they have to make a proposal, yeah.
right? That's for us to be on the hook to them. So in that circumstance, it is a one-way street. Now, the way it works, in a little more detail, is that they have 30 days to accept or reject the offer from the time it's served. And I've usually done it just by certified mail. If you want to serve it, you go down to the sheriff's office. But from the time they're served, they have 30 days to accept or reject it. If a non-acceptance is considered a rejection, they just don't respond, that's a rejection. Then your attorney's fees from the time of service of the offer is when the court will calculate what attorney's fees are owed after that. And it would include the appeal.
What is the amount of your fees at this point? Or, and Judge Branham's fees from when you was lawyer?
I haven't added that up yet, but it would not be a part of what we could recover.
Okay.
Is why I haven't added it
So
up.
it's future fees.
Future fees only. Future fees that go from the time of service of the proposal for settlement to the end of the litigation.
So the mediation, that was what, 8,000, thereabouts?
Probably, I don't know. But it would, I haven't added it up because it wouldn't be a part of this.
So it would be if there's appeals and things of that nature, an ongoing battle, it would cover the fees forward.
Right. The appeal would go to the, First District Court of Appeal in Tallahassee. They have jurisdiction over Nassau County. I was senior staff attorney in that court for years, and I can give you an estimate, a pretty good estimate of what my fees would be. But that's the kind of thing that may be best discussed in the shade meeting.
What other conditions could you put on the offer that we make? Say, if we made $100,000 settlement offer, could you put a condition that says, that $100,000 is not paid at one time, we stretch it out over a time period?
I'd have to research that. That sounds like a condition that a trial judge could see as unreasonable.
And would another condition be that they drop the pilot payment request altogether, or is that just part of it?
Well, the issue, it goes back to putting on a condition that would require the city to give up a right they would otherwise have. Now, if they perceive, I mean, we could put it as a condition. I'm talking about worst case scenario. We get it, a lot of trial court judges don't like proposals for stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot, but some don't. So if you've got a judge who didn't, they might see it as, us conditioning the settlement on the city giving up a right to do something in the future that they would have been able to do otherwise if there had been no litigation. And so courts have rejected that kind of condition. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about in the shade meeting if you decide to do it. The conditions have to be framed very conservatively, carefully. I could talk more about the conditions, and I will unless you're looking at
Basically, what I was trying to say is elimination of all future pilot payments. That's what.
And my answer is still that
Yeah.
may be
Right.
a unacceptable condition to judges. It's in the judge's discretion.
And what would happen to the pilot payment?
Ineffective. It would be ineffective and void if the judge, the trial court determines that the proposal, that the conditions of the proposal were, however you want to phrase it, not made in good faith, unreasonable.
Illegal?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't think we can put a condition on there across the law, but, you know.
Well, we all know that we tried to make an agreement with the city for a settlement already.
Right.
And they just flat refused. They refused our terms,
Well,
and they offered theirs, and we could not accept theirs either, so that's why we're here.
frankly, that's why this particular amount came to mind.
Right,
And the
right.
reason I'm willing to talk about it outside the shade meeting, because that's where we stand, $100,000 off. So why not take that and use it to, unless you want to withdraw the offer, but why not take it and use it to absorb your attorney's fees for the appeal? Now, I should add that in an appeal, the way things are going now, the standard of review, the way the appellate judges, panel of 3 judges would look at this, is called de novo, as if new. That means that the judge, they would give no discretion to Judge Palmer. They would look at everything, as if they were looking at it for the first time, and nobody else has looked at it. So, at the appeal, you get dicey.
But the offer could be that part of the time limit for payment of the 100,000 could be in that offer. And that would be acceptable.
Well, no, it could be
Could be or could
in
not.
there, but I have to research and get back to you as to whether there's case law or AGO opinions addressing that issue. I haven't looked at it.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess we need to find out if we can make the, the stipulation has to be that it's the last pilot payment, as we were trying to get, while we're at this in the door. That's what really we can make an offer, but it can't be an offer where they can still collect pilot payment.
I always said, and we had it in our negotiation, that we would pay those last 2 years that I thought we should pay.
Right.
But we just couldn't pay it all at one time. They wanted 100,000 all at one time, we just couldn't do that.
Well, we even tried to offer them a breakdown for a couple of years until we got
And
that.
then something else after that.
Right.
So what's your pleasure? You want to have him research whether or not we
Can make some stipulations.
put stipulations in there?
Okay, and the
Come back next month.
extend payments and, what else?
You have to have all this done before our next meeting, though, right?
Is it the hearing set 30 days from the last?
Yes, it was, I think.
Say that again?
Is it your next hearing set for 30 days from the last hearing?
No.
No, you have,
Judge Falkman is out of town,
Okay.
so he won't even enter the proposed order until next week. The city has 30 days from the time of that rendition to file an amended complaint. And then we have 30 days to file our response, either a motion or an answer, and then we set it here. So hearings are on.
so they have to figure out if they want to continue with this first, and then whatever they decide, we can
Can counter
our
it.
part. So you're talking about another 60 days at least before we have the final answer?
We're talking about another 60 days at a minimum,
Yes.
probably another 90 days before we have another hearing.
So we got time, so you can research it and get back to us at the next meeting with the information we need.
Yeah, that's your wish.
Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, I'm cool with that, yeah.
Are there any other questions about the attorney's report?
I think it's a good suggestion to discuss settlement options. I think that's wise.
Yeah. Is that all you have tonight?
Unless there are other questions about the attorney report, it was a very busy month, and I think it's gone down.
I don't know if you want to talk about this, if it even makes any difference, but there's a court bill in the legislation bill, it's actually in the Senate now, about changing the ability of governments to dictate to the ports what they can do as far as bringing in ships and other material to the ports. Do you know anything about that?
I talked to Doug Wheeler for about a half an hour about it, and boy, it's not hard to hold a conversation with him. What I took away from it was that, an issue arose in Key West regarding cruise ships, and
Right.
somehow it ballooned into proposed, bills that are being bounced around that would basically shift or enhance, a municipality's, authority to, over courts. But, Doug was very, vague about the whole thing, which apparently a work in progress in the legislative process. Commissioner Cole, I think you talked to.
I'm just aware of it as you are,
Okay.
and what you're saying is correct.
There's a call he invited me to attend, where they're going to talk about it. It'll probably be a 3 or 4 hour call. That Commissioner Cole, if you were going to be on that call.
Okay,
But, Doug Wheeler said he talked to you about it, but, I told him, I didn't know because it costs you all money.
mhm.
You know, if you want me to sit there for 3 or 4 hours and potentially have to pay for it, I'd be happy to, but, just let me know.
It's Senate Bill 426, if
Right.
anybody wants to look that up, it's the Transportation Committee Senate Bill, revised bill.
Let me speak with Doug and see if it warrants you being on the call,
All right.
see what his views are.
If anyone you ask me to do it, I'll be there.
Should more listen to the call, Mike, or
Could we what?
should more listen to the call?
Yeah, I believe we all listened, but we couldn't interact, you know,
Right.
in the sunshine, but, you know.
Yeah, you can listen to any of the committees, I believe, online,
Okay.
but you just can't interact. Chris, I think you know about this bill. Do you have any opinions? And you're at the port, you should know whether it'll affect us or not.
It'll affect.
I do, Mr. Chairman. I've done some thorough research on it, obviously, because it bears directly on what we're trying to do here. And our view is clear that this would not be helpful to the Ocean Highway Port Authority. Essentially, what this bill proposes to do is to preempt all port regulatory matters directly to the state of Florida, but yet without indicating what department and what type of parameters might be preempted and who would be the regulator. And quite honestly, the municipalities may be supporting it. Of our 15 ports in this state, we're the only one that has a special legislative district. Municipality ports that are branches or subdivisions of municipalities, I understand, are supporting it. But county-regulated ports or divisions of counties like Port Everglades are adamantly against it. And my view is, as a special legislative district, no one can preempt any of your regulatory authority as described in your charter. Not the city, not the state, not any subdivision thereof. Why would you ever want to change that? That's the way the legislators set this situation up. That's the way they wanted it, and that's the way you've been governing for more than 30 years on this. So it doesn't work for us. It's one of those fix-alls that they tried to help Key West. Key West should solve their problems. We support trying to help Key West, but to upend the regulatory, the governance structure of all the other ports in the state, to us, it just would never make sense without much more detail, much more work on the bill.
The city of Key West owns the port of Key West.
Mhm.
So they voted to stop cruise ships from coming into the port. And they thought it was harming the economy. How, I don't know. But that's what this bill is all about. They voted to stop that. And so the legislator down there, the representative, wrote a bill saying, you know, they shouldn't be able to regulate what ships come in And basically, they're just talking about cruise ships, but I think things have changed since the bill got to Tallahassee. So we need to be careful and keep an eye on that. As of this time, I think it's probably gonna be voted down, and I don't think it's gonna be good for us if it isn't. Okay,
Yeah, I agree.
any other questions about that?
I just wanted to comment before we moved on from the attorney report. I was trying to add up the amount of money that we continue to spend on the pilot litigation, just so that we know where we are, because sometimes you can fight and so you've forgotten what you're arguing about. But in this one report, I tallied up $2,740. And maybe I'm wrong, tell me, was the original pleading that was heard at this hearing, was that prepared by now Judge Brand?
The original pleading was the city's complaint.
And it was a motion to dismiss that
That's what
that was prepared, right? Okay.
And it's a 5-page document that summarized
I've seen that.
tens of hours of work, which I had to familiarize myself with. Frankly, I didn't feel a lot of the time I spent preparing for that hearing. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Any other comments? Thank you, Bill. Bob? All right, Fort Bernardino, the tonnage report, let's start with that.
Mr. Chairman, if we could just switch the order and bring up the gentleman from ZPMC at this point. And I think if we can let them do that presentation, and then we can work through the rest of our items.
We can do that now, if they'd like to do that.
All right, thank
You
you.
want to introduce them and tell us what this is about?
Yeah. We're very pleased and fortunate to have with us tonight the president of ZPMC USA. These gentlemen, and also the vice president and engineer who is happens to be a Fernandina resident when he's not traveling the globe, building and installing cranes for all of the largest ports. They're going to give you a brief overview of the project that we're going to talk about after they present it in terms of the mechanics of how we're proposing to acquire 2 used container gantry cranes for the port. And this is Mr. Rick Pope, who's been in this business for, I know him professionally, for at least 30 years. And I could say that we could not think of or find a company that's more highly qualified, and more highly capable, and more highly regarded for this job. So with that, Mr. Pope.
Good evening, Commissioners. I promise this will be brief. I'm, as everybody's announced already, Richard Pope. I'm the president of ZPMC USA. We're a service company that deals with container handling equipment of every sort with ports all over the country. We have 7 different projects, rather large ones going on right now, for example, East Coast, West Coast, and Gulf. So we're quite widespread. And we're taking a, let's see here, and get up which one is it here?
Excuse me, Mr. Pope, are you comfortable with taking your mask off?
Yes, I am,
Okay,
actually.
thank you.
Figure out which one is going on, maybe this one. Here. All right, so, as I said, this is, our subject cranes right here. These are sitting, currently in Wilmington, North Carolina. They were built in 1990, in excellent condition, actually superb. And, they've been, continuously maintained in that, since they've been owned by North Carolina. And they, have been continuously certified for use. So they can use them now if they want to. They're in fine condition. And what we propose to do is take these 2 cranes, put them on a barge, bring them here, and offload them, and then modify them to work on the wharf we have here in Port Fernandina. Involves changing basically the bottom part of the crane so it fits your rails. And there's also an existing Hitachi crane that's past its reasonable service life that will dismantle and get out of here for you. But, anyway, these two, cranes would be, a fine addition to your fleet. Just kind of quickly show you the idea, this is, just gives you an idea of something that we've done many times where we move cranes from one port to another. These cranes, they came out, these were out of Charleston, right? And then they went to Nigeria. So, you know, this happens all the time. A little coast run from Wilmington to here is a pretty short trip. And this crane here, you can see that this back end part right here is sitting a little bit different than where it used to be. It was once in the line under here, and then we moved it back here to adapt it to a pier that had a wider gauge, as they call it, or rail set. So generally, this is the way the crane sits right now. There's a lot of little detail and stuff in here, but just to give you an idea, what we would propose to do is to add this little extension out the back. The next step would be to support that extension with some structure, and then we would slide the rear leg section back to match your gauge. This has all been engineered and studied for feasibility, and it's a very difficult project. So, promise to keep it brief. That's essentially what we had in mind to do here, and I'm open for questions.
How far y'all gonna move them rails out?
It's 27 feet, and 27 feet and change. It's, goes from a 50-foot gauge to 77 feet.
So they're gonna be moved out 27 feet,
Correct.
and there's 77 feet between each rail?
That's right.
That's about 50%, so we're gonna move. And y'all gonna put that picture back up there where you just had that drawing.
All right. Figure out how to go backwards here.
Uh-huh.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And y'all gonna come out and put that piece out to the side and put a big gusset up in there?
Yeah, so this, this piece, extends this back for support of this. And this structure here makes a kind of a truss, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
To provide support for the extension.
Is there support on the bottom there where it comes out? Is that what that is? Go down, right there.
Right here?
No, keep going.
Okay.
Cross, yeah, right there.
Yeah, no, that's just.
That's just the ground there.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But then, y'all gonna remove that piece that's coming straight down and put it out 27 foot to the side or not? Or y'all gonna leave that piece in there?
Which piece are you referring to?
The piece coming straight down?
It'll come
This
out.
part here?
Yeah, that part right there.
Okay, so this part remains as it is right now.
Yeah.
As was originally built. And we add another 27-foot piece that goes onto the backside.
Right.
And all this other structure here remains as it is now.
Any other questions?
And you've calculated it will hold the,
Yes, it maintains the same, capacity that the cranes currently have.
Now. Okay. And that's to fit our tracks.
That's correct.
It wouldn't be more feasible to put another track in?
Oh, Lord, no.
Pretty pricey.
Yeah.
A lot of piles to drive and. Yeah. It's a lot of money. And it'll take quite some time.
Wait from the city. Oh, you you always gonna have that on there. Okay.
Any other questions?
No question.
All right.
No, sir.
Thank you very much, Richard. Appreciate the presentation. All right. You guys want to stick around, you're certainly welcome to. Chris, I have a couple of questions, if you answer these for us. The old Hitachi, explain what's gonna happen to that.
That will be deconstructed and removed, and the steel will be scrapped.
And we're selling that steel to recover some of the cost.
By the way, it's actually, the Hitachi crane is not open anymore. It was sold to Kinder Morgan.
Right,
Yeah, so it's actually Worldwide Terminals.
but it will be sold for
Well,
scrap.
it's not being sold for scrap.
Oh, they're gonna take the scrap for tearing it down.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, these typical deconstructions
Yeah.
can cost $400,000 to $500,000.
Yeah.
As you'll see from the turnkey fixed price agreement that we have negotiated with ZPMC, they're including $148,000 of that money to do the deconstruction, and they're keeping the steel to reduce that cost.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I should also mention for Commissioner Franklin's benefit, our facility crane manager, Stanley Harrington, also has worked with these gentlemen for his entire career, including when he was buying cranes in China with these gentlemen for the Port of Jacksonville. And he's also been involved every step of the way. And part of their contract, you'll see when I pass around the draft that we have, includes the professional engineering stamp for the design work from a Florida state licensed professional engineer. And also that engineer will certify that the fabrication and construction is completed in accordance with the plans that he approved. So it's, as I said, we feel extremely confident with these gentlemen. They've invested thousands of hours in analyzing and studying these cranes, and this all started when we asked them about a year and a half ago to start looking around for potential cranes that could work in the Port of Jacksonville. And the Hitachi's in 1970s vintage, and it was a very odd gauge, this rail distance of 77 feet. It came from Singapore. There were twins that came from Singapore, but as you know, Kinder Morgan was involved in the collapse of one of them. So we have only one left. But the gauge of 77 feet in the Western world is unheard of. Generally, the cranes are 50 or 100 feet wide, and very rarely anything in between. So we based the decision on the availability of two cranes for the price of one, and the fact that they're identical, the operation, training, maintenance will be uniform with our crew, and they've been in a non-saltwater environment, 29 miles up the river in Wilmington, North Carolina, for their entire life. They happen to have been built by Liebherr, who built our mobile harbor crane, and which is an old standing European company that builds extremely robust equipment. And we're fortunate that the state of North Carolina Ports Authority has very strict maintenance protocols and has really taken care of these cranes. The only reason they're letting them go is because they're just not large enough for the mega ships that they're getting, but they're larger than the Hitachi, and they're perfect for the kind of ships that we foresee in the next 20 years.
You say, and these cranes has not been operated on salt water, they've been up inland, you say?
Yeah, from their first date of commissioning in the 1990s, they were commissioned up in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is 29 miles upriver from the ocean.
More freshwater than
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Unlike our salt environment here in Bernardino.
Yeah.
And the other thing that makes this an urgent project at this point, and I believe you know that FDOT has agreed to provide the 50% match. We'll get into the price in a few minutes. We've already accepted that change of an amendment to one of the grants. The Hitachi has really eclipsed its useful life. I mean, we've been ramping up the amount of, it's basically a patient on life support at this point. And it could fail any day, it could fail tomorrow. Every time we work a shipment, it doesn't fail, we basically, cross our hearts and say, we got one more shot with it, So it's just not reliable any longer, so this really is, a fantastic opportunity and timely. From approximately 30 to 40 days after we sign the agreement with these gentlemen, they'll have those cranes removed from the dock in North Carolina and delivered here. And we think, based on their schedule, they could have the work finished by June.
Is this the GL06 grant?
Yeah, we took it from the warehouse, the 2.9 million.
All right, what's our next step?
Well, we have a draft contract I'm just gonna pass out, just so people have it to take a look at, not tonight, we don't expect you to read it tonight, but,
Chairman Fuller, I had a question.
Yes,
About the modification of the crane. Have there ever been instances of a crane failing after having that type of modification? Or maybe the question should be, are there any concerns about that? I mean, would it be something that would depreciate the asset, or how would an engineer look at the modification? Would they view that as good as an original size, crane that fits the site versus?
Richard, can you come up and talk about that?
yeah. It's a good question, and we might as well let the expert answer that.
It's an excellent question. The design for that is actually done by a registered professional structural engineer. And their objective is to be as good as, if not better. And when I say if not better, they don't want to see it less either, right? So we have a rather small community of engineers that we trust for this kind of work. And they have looked at this very closely. And if they had an issue or a concern about it, they would just advise it that it's not a good idea. Right? So this has been studied pretty well, and they're quite comfortable that it's going to be as good as or better than the original structure.
It's something that you would be able to find examples of all over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's countless examples of various types of modifications of this sort to adapt trains. The thing is that a lot of smaller ports and, I guess ones that don't really have the capacity to have very large ships and things like this, take advantage of the used crane market to bring cranes into their ports and modernize from, some old style or type of crane. And quite frequently, they have, various odd sort of crane rail gauges. And so this is a very common modification for that kind of scenario.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Is there an engineering study report about this modification that they have? Do you have?
We have a preliminary modeling of the structure that's available. There's still more engineering to do for some finer details, but and there's also been a survey of the equipment by an engineer. I guess. William Lawrence. Yeah, what was that? A year or something? Yeah. So there's been a thorough survey of both cranes by a professional engineer, by the way, which isn't frequent. And normally, professional engineers read survey reports. But
we actually, Rick, you'll recall that, when was it, Ed? Was it in January?
January 2020.
Thank you. In January, we had Stanley Harrington and our most senior and experienced crane operator and crane mechanic, Steve Franklin. You know him, no relation to Commissioner Franklin, but you know him, right?
I don't think so.
Steve, no, okay, well, they drove up with William Lawrence, the lead engineer, and he has his own engineering firm. And my first question was just make sure the engineer has malpractice, insurance. And, they design, as Rick was explaining, they design these things now with computer structural modeling, and they get to, stresses and loads, and then model the thicknesses of the steel and the strength of the steel that's necessary, the strength of the joints, what kind of bolting, what kind of welding. So, yeah, I mean, this fellow's livelihood's on the line if anything goes wrong, and it hasn't. I mean, one of the questions was, you know, any recent failures with someone modifying a crane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So, and just to point out how thorough it is, so two things, so Mr. Harrington. Yeah, Mr. Harrington and Mr. Franklin, got in the crane, operated both of them, started them up, and used them, and they run perfectly well. And they also did their own thorough physical inspection. And, so that's very important that we know that.
Okay. Is there a summary report from the engineer that we could possibly get?
Yeah.
That would help.
Yeah, and just so, also for Commissioner Hill, I mean, the contract, you'll see, these gentlemen have to have the cranes inspected and load tested pursuant with 29 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 1919, which is a gear certification statute. So there's regulatory supervision to make sure that this thing will be safe at the 50-ton working
I
load.
just want some documentation, that if somebody says, has this been inspected by an engineer or be safe, I want to be able to show them that report.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure we can get that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Pope, is that presentation available on a PDF, or could you send that to us? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
I have it, I can send it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just like the pictures of it.
It's a 50-ton, so the 50-ton is the unmodified crane. Before,
It currently has a 50-ton capacity, and, Mr. Pope indicated the modified crane will also have the same 50-ton capacity.
Yes.
By the way, the Hitachi's at 35 tons, and Stan told me it would not pass a load test if we had to do 35 tons, so.
All right. So we're getting better cranes.
Oh, much so. Much so, very much so.
Okay, now, are these belonging to the port, or do they belong to?
Well, since,
Because we've got the grant. I mean,
Yeah.
It's our crane.
they're gonna be yours.
So
It's
no longer
gonna
be.
go, basically a $5 million, addition to your balance sheet.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions about the cranes? All right, Port Director report.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Be safe.
Thank you.
I just want to, I'll pass these out when I pass out the funded report.
Yeah, I meant to go to the tonnage report first, yeah. You can do it all at one time. Yeah. We're gonna be doing both.
This newfangled machine that tries not to use staples, so it doesn't work.
Hey, can I go check out this crane like I did the LeBaron?
You bet. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You gonna start putting bigger lights on these things?
Yeah, I agree with you, and darker print, I don't know what's going on with that.
We'll have to talk to Mr. Not higher numbers, but bigger numbers.
Yeah, well, we like higher too.
Yeah, so.
This is just
You can do it if you cut out some of those months. Future months.
as you can see, but we're
Cut and paste and do it ahead of time.
Bob, is this the first time you've seen this?
So just, before we get to the fund report, the reason I'm handing this out is because this represents this document with ZPMC, and of course, it's between OHPA and ZPMC. This is a final draft. We've concluded our negotiations, and we're basically satisfied with the business terms, and they're in here. The business terms are pretty simple. It's a total of $5 million. Oh, goodness. It's $5,090,000, $5,009,090, $5,090,090. And for whatever reason, when I make these copies, it looks like that got cut off. I'll send everyone an electronic copy. It started out at $5,190,000. They were able to engineering to make a $239,000 adjustment from when we first started the discussions. And $148 to remove the Hitachi. Oh, there it is on the top of the next page. The grand total is $5,098,200. So we'll be able to make it with the 50% allocation from FDOT, and Worldwide will provide the local match of the additional $2.5 million. And what we would like to do is, Bob got it late, we gave it to Mr. Sturgis yesterday evening, so when he's ready, we'd like him to insert whatever language he wants to from OHPA's point of view. From our point of view and ZPMC's point of view, we're satisfied with where it's at. And as soon as, what I'd like the commissioners maybe to do is talk with Mr. Sturgis about some of the things he would put in here to, if you're ready to do that, Mr. Sturgis, some of the things you would put in from OHPA's point of view.
Brad?
Yeah, okay, well, so then what we'll do is let's call a special meeting for later this month, because we really have to get this thing moving. We have a few risks. North Carolina's giving it to these guys for the cost of removing them. We don't want them to give it to anyone else. They have a handshake agreement with North Carolina, and he has his board approval to give it to these gentlemen for this use. The cost of the barges go up every day. He's got a barge reserve to pick this thing up. And if we lose too much time, we could run into hurricane season, but the train's still in a state of unfinished. So it is urgent, and as I said, if the Hitachi goes down, we're working without enough cranes. So maybe we can come back to this at the end. Maybe I'll ask if you think about a special meeting later this month so we can take care of this and perhaps support a master plan RFP. We could do both of those in a special meeting.
Does it have to be a face-to-face meeting, and could we do it on Zoom? Be more convenient with everybody? Would you rather get face-to-face and have a special meeting come to town, or?
Can we legally?
The face works better for me.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll plan on that.
Okay. All right, so then we won't take any more time on that.
Chris, for some reason I didn't get this last night, but, in the past, how have you handled the part of agreements like this where Nassau Terminals agrees to, indemnify the Port Authority in case,
Right.
I've seen other contracts where OHPA really has no risk.
That's right.
Because you anticipate that being a separate agreement from this?
No, I think you probably will add that in and then make us a
To this
party.
agreement?
Yeah, right, for this. This is ready, other than your, legal changes to protect OHPA's point of view.
So right now, Nassau Terminal is not a party to the.
That's right, but I'm thinking you would want us to
Add them as a
be,
party.
just add us.
All right.
We'll sign as it relates to the indemnification, and, exactly.
Okay.
Did anyone have any questions about the tonnage report? Any concerns?
He hasn't gotten,
We hadn't gone over that yet.
Yeah, I'll highlight it.
Do you have the name of the attorney who prepared this?
Actually, they do these agreements all the time. The ZPMC guys sent me the draft, and I tweaked it as it related to the business conditions. I have a provision in there that says before we sign it, what we do is we run it past our insurance, advisors. You know, we provide, you know, the insurance that OHPA needs, we provide that, but we also make sure OHPA gets the insurance that we would want. So we have our associates review it. So we have that provision in there that if we need to tweak some of the coverages or the amounts, that we can still do that. And,
It says it's a service agreement.
well, it does, I know. I mean, I agree with you, because you could tell a lawyer didn't really put it together. And that's why I say Bob can go through it, and if there's anything that he feels is not consistent. It does talk about services, including providing the equipment, et cetera. But, you know, as you said, they view themselves, they're not buying and selling the crane. They got permission to take it off the dock in North Carolina. I negotiated with North Carolina to give it to us for free, and they were fine with it because the cost for North Carolina, if no one was interested in these cranes, could be a few $100,000 per crane. So it's kind of like everybody's benefiting from this. And the service provider is EPMC, because they have to pick up those cranes, make them, secure them for sea transit, get the barge, bring it to Fernandina, get them off the barge, and then do the modifications. They've ordered structural steel members to be fabricated, and they have to redo the electrical conduits and everything on the crane by stretching it. So they have a lot of work to do in terms of really sort of contractor/engineering type work. So they do view themselves as a service organization.
So the relationship with North Carolina, that would be that they would convey title without consideration? And so you're saying there would be no contract with them, or?
No, what we've done is we've put the burden in, when you read this, you'll see the burden is on ZPMC to acquire title and produce clear title to OHPA. So whatever deal they do in North Carolina, as long as they can produce, before they can get paid, they have to produce clear title. So, and they have an agreement with North Carolina, which allows them to do that. And you say for no consideration, it'll be, I'm sure it's written for some consideration, and part of the consideration is in fact the savings of having to demolish those.
Taking the equipment away.
We're paying $148,000, and they've already mobilized for the other cranes, and we're giving them the steel. So even if you look
I
at
think your job's not done. I think you have to find a buyer for our crane.
which one?
You have to find a buyer for our crane.
Well, look, we negotiated pretty hard, and nobody, well, you're forgetting, our crane is 1970s, it's not useful anymore, that's the problem. The huge electric drive, which Scott would, and Commissioner Franklin would know about, I mean, it's ready to go, it's basically fried. You know, I mean, it's very old, it's 50+ years, it's been heavily used in a saltwater environment. And it just doesn't produce the oomph that used to be. The old girl is just, she's spent, you know.
Oh, boy, like a '57 Cadillac.
So if we're receiving something that is being disposed of from North Carolina, I just want to make sure that we can get clear title. I have some concerns there, so just having received this.
Sure.
I understand
No,
that-
I'm gonna run it down and see how we're gonna make sure we get it. That's a great point. We'll follow up on that. I'm gonna make a note. I have spoken repeatedly with the CEO and port director of the North Carolina State Ports. Again, someone I know 20+ years from, this industry up in New York, and, you know, he's very supportive. And again, they're not disposing of them. They really have a problem too that we're solving, which is they're in the way, but they're too small to be used on their ships. And, you know, even though there are small ports that need smaller cranes, and there's not that many small ports that have the 50 gauge and also need cranes like this. Fernandina and these cranes are almost perfect together. It's just one of those matches made in heaven. What can I say? You know, we're fortunate. So, for Director Clark up there, if he can't get someone like us to take them, and that's why he's happy to give them basically for free, then he has to go hire someone like ZPMC, and without other projects to mobilize and demobilize, he's gonna get hit for more like $300,000 plus a crane, even if he gives them the steel. And it'd be a shame, because they're perfectly functional cranes, unlike the Hitachi.
$5 million for 30-year-old cranes. Does that sound right? You guys have been doing this long enough.
I've never bought any cranes myself, but Stan Harrison bought them, all of them that's in Jacksonville, and he had them built in China, he went to China and had I think 10 built, I believe it was.
Well, it was GPMC's parent, which is the one who manufactures.
And they was about 15, 20 million apiece.
That's right. The current state-of-the-art, full-size container cranes these days are approximately 15 to 17 million, depending on the bells and whistles. So to get two of these that will work for us, and they've been certified to be good for at least another 20 years, that was required for FDOT to be able to put the grant money on. It was just a real coup. I mean, we paid $2 million for the lead there just by itself. And for containers, these cranes are just, much better.
I know it's a matter of semantics, but we're not actually paying that money for the crane. We're
We're paying for moving and,
Well,
engine.
And
If you had to buy-
install.
if you had-
Exactly right.
If you had to buy new cranes, and we're gonna need new cranes.
Yeah.
And it would cost you 10 times as much.
And these cranes is not being used in a saltwater area.
Right.
You remember when me and you took the tour of the crane that collapsed over there? You remember we saw some, heavy western and all? That's what saltwater do. And, these cranes are, the way he's gonna reinforce them, with his guts and all that, it'll hold. The cranes has to go through a strict inspection several times a year anyhow. They're like an elevator, an elevator goes through. But I've talked to Stanley about them, he says they're good cranes, they operate good, they look good, and like, all we pay is installation fee and moving fee.
Well, it's actually even a lot more than that. It's all services. They have special equipment that they can slide these cranes off the dock in North Carolina onto the barge. They have to secure a barge from a barge company. They have to do what's called fixing the cranes to the barge for sea transit, which involves welding steel members to hold those cranes from falling or flipping if there's waves. Then they bring it to Fernandina. They have to reverse that, unsecure them, and then use their jacking system to jack it on rails perpendicular to our crane rails, off the barge onto our rails. Then once it's there, they jack it up again, cut the bottom leg off that you saw has to come back, and then start their installation. Meantime, they've ordered the steel per the specifications of their engineer to be fabricated and delivered to Fernandina. So it's really all service is what they're doing.
So they're gonna do the modification here.
Here,
Yeah.
yeah.
I say the leg will be cut off after they put the other leg on.
Well, no, they may wait till it's ready.
Yeah, after
but it'll be on
the-
jacks, right?
it'll be
It's
developed.
Let's move on, because we can
Yeah,
always
right.
discuss the special
It's an
meeting.
interesting topic, right?
Okay.
It's very exciting
Let's
report.
go over the tonnage report.
Yes. So, overall, total tons, we're up again. From, January was 32,900. We came in for February at 34,696. Year to date, based on 2 months, we're a plus 13,500 tons versus our pace last year to date, which you see over there on the right. Container tonnage is up, about 4,000 tons. That's on the top second line on the right. With year-to-date 21 versus 20. And vessel calls are also up this month, in February, 12 vessel calls for the month. So overall, we're, continuing to be at a good pace to, eclipse significantly the tonnage from last year, 12 months.
Your vessel call is down, well,
It's actually up, February was 12, January was 5.
oh, for the month, yeah.
For the month.
But for last year, it's down, last year, 2020, we had 18 at this time.
Yeah, good, it's true. Any questions?
Thank you.
I know you're busy down there, because we went down the other day, and toured the port, more or less, looked at the new fabric warehouse, drove through it. Saw these huge ships, two of them, at the docks, and they took up the whole dock space. I mean, they were huge.
Yeah, 2 600-footers in there, we had 1,200 feet of dock.
Loading and unloading.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Any questions about Tommy's report? All right, move on.
I would still like to get these reports a day in advance. I mean, even if it's not when we get the packet for the meeting, but having a little bit more time to digest the information. I know you said in the past that you would try.
I am working on it. There might be some hope in the coming months. Let's see what we can do for next month. If I get it a day or two before the meeting day, then I'm happy to email it around and send it. That would help.
Is that all you had?
That's all I have.
All right, let me ask you about and I know the answer to it, the feasibility study for the navigation of the harbor that was requested by the Army Corps of Engineers. That's been accomplished.
Oh, that was submitted, yeah, that was submitted on time, exactly as you signed the cover letter, and then that report that was attached to
And
it.
they're happy with it.
They're happy with it, yeah. We had let Bo give us the input in advance on that.
All right, the RFP for the Port Master Plan, you said you would, committed to get the RFP out by the end of February. We're in March.
Well, I know that, but in all fairness, Mr. Chairman, I had requested in February, and we can go to the minutes on this, or actually, I guess it was in February, I had requested the special meeting in February for 2 topics, the cranes and the RFP for the master plan. Now, you had the special meeting, but it ended up on March 2nd, and I got knocked off the agenda because of internal open issues, personnel issues, et cetera, which is fine, but that's why I would like the special meeting. We've been working on it, and we have a pretty close to a working draft of an RFP document that we can share in advance of the special meeting, and then we can convene later this month and approve it and have it be issued.
Well, it would have been nice if we could have had it tonight, so we could review it by the special meeting, but, as soon as you get it accomplished, can you send it out to us before the meeting?
Yeah, we'll get it out beginning of next week, so that'll be way in advance of the special
We
meeting.
need to get that going.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, equipment report. The operating agreement, as you know, says that you have to do an equipment report and have it submitted to us by, that's section 2.3 of the operating agreement, the scope of work, and have it to us by I think, June the 1st. And I just want to let you know, we're going to expect that this year by June 1st.
Okay, that's fine.
So if you need to start working on that, start working on
Yep.
it. Okay? Any questions for, port operator?
I think the public records request is on
I'll
the
get to
agenda for
that.
later.
I'll get to it,
Okay,
yeah.
so it'll
Yes.
just flow back.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, let's move on here to unfinished business. Hiring of administrative office manager. The big ticket. All right, we had 4 candidates interviewed that, they didn't make the final. They were the only ones that responded for a final interview. Kathy McClellan, Darlene Hamer-Smith, Rosanna Hebron, and Brenda Martin. Each commissioner interviewed those 4. We did a scoring sheet that we rated 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 was our number 1 choice, 2, and so on. And we tallied we gave those sheets to Barb. She tallied them, and nobody knows what those are. That was private. I told her not to share it with anybody. We have those handed out to us tonight. You know what the scores are now. And let's start talking about what we wanna do.
So,
The,
is this process, this hiring process, did Bob vet this process, or
did he vet this process?
Mhm. Did he
What
sign off on
vetting do we need?
just to make sure that we're following the right procedure?
Are we following the right procedure, Bob?
Sure you are.
I don't think we
Just
just
office, you can do whatever you want, and they, comply with the sunshine law aspect of it, I mean, separately, so, yes.
Okay, so the score sheets don't have to be made public?
They will be, I guess they could be.
I wouldn't even recommend that.
But you can say, who would complain, but, no, I don't think that.
I wouldn't recommend that, Mr. Chairman, but it's not,
I'm not.
we're just
trying
hiring
to be
an office
argumentative.
position.
I'm not trying to be argumentative. I was just raising the question only because I want to make sure, specifically with hiring decisions, because you're going to have 3 disappointed people, right, at a minimum. And so I think it's one of the most important things we do to comply with the sunshine law, not to be, I hate to be.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I respect that Bob is our attorney and that he should be the one to advise us on the sunshine law. And so I just want to make sure that this process follows that, because I've never known of a secret ballot that wasn't ultimately had to be disclosed at the meeting where you vote. So I just wanted to make sure that you looked at the issue and that you said it was okay.
I don't know if I'd characterize it as a secret ballot. It's a score sheet that we, rated what we thought our candidates deserved, for our choice. To me, that's not a ballot. I guess you characterize it any way you want, but do you agree with that?
I understand Commissioner Hill's concern. It's
Yeah.
just like, these are documents
Sure.
that you're going to use to make a decision. So, in a way, it's a valid point. My suggestion would be, to just attach them to the minutes, or, publish them any other way you want. But
Yeah, there are public records, so.
just make sure there's no,
I don't have any problem with letting people know.
Yeah. So, I publish it in one way or another. Whenever a commissioner raises a question like that, very conservative, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, the totals, I don't have any problem with. How each individual commissioner rated, I don't think we need to do that.
Or is each commissioner looking at the others' scores?
Or not ahead of time, they just saw them tonight. But not each, they didn't see how each one voted for each candidate.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? Everybody all right with that? You look questioning.
Yeah, so my understanding is that we each filled out a sheet, and we ranked 1 to 4, and we gave that to Barb, and she counted it up. Right? And so I think those sheets have to be public records.
Okay, want to just scratch these things. Does that mean your sheet? You want to, I can print out the sheet that you sent me, yeah.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Hill, is your concern that they should have been published before the meeting to comply with the Accountability Act, or is your concern whether they will ultimately be public records if someone requests them?
No, my concern was that you were advising us on the whole process and whether or not you were advising us on this whole process. Because when I asked about the process, the response was, this is what we did when we hired Barb. And I just wanted to make sure that what we're doing has been looked at, that it's actually.
So if it helps, this is exactly the way that Judge Brandon had us do it when we hired Barb.
Okay, so that does not help.
Okay.
I just would like to understand whether someone has looked at this process, interview process, and whether we are following the statutes. Because I believe those score sheets have to be made public. I think they're supposed to be brought to this meeting and made available for people to see. And that we're allowed to do the secret ballot thing and give it to Barb, and she can tally it up and then show us at this meeting. But I believe that those sheets do have to be part of public record, and they have to be available to the public. And I'm not trying to serve as a lawyer, but I would like someone to.
If someone asks for these documents, they
Yeah, well-
are public record.
If they make a public records request, we'll provide them.
Exactly. But the separate issue, this is what I was trying to ask earlier, is whether you have a duty to make them public overtly? And my answer is no.
No.
No,
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
Okay?
So are we attaching them to the minutes, or are we just leaving them in case of public request?
I would say leave them, and if somebody wants them, they can ask for them.
Correct. That's what I recommend.
Okay? All right, how do we want to attack this?
All right. I'll make a motion that the sheets were tallied and the top candidate, was selected, and we, make a motion that we, bring in Brenda Martin.
What, do we? Well, let me tell you how this worked first.
Okay.
The lower score was the higher rated.
Oh, was that how
They're
it?
alphabetical.
Okay, I misunderstood your scoring sheet.
I thought
No, the lower score is the higher rated person, and the names are all in alphabetical order by their first name,
All right.
so. But
Oh, that's right, 'cause we gave a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I will withdraw my motion.
because we gave a 1, 2, 3, 4,
That's correct.
and if everybody voted for the same person for number 1, then the score would be 4. That'd be the lowest.
It would be 5 if everybody.
Five.
Well, 5, yeah, I'm sorry, 5.
Okay.
That's correct.
5. I see, okay.
All right, I understand now. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
So Kathy would be the lead right now.
The highest rated. I guess I can put it that way.
Kathy McClellan would be the higher rated, yes, that is correct.
And then Darlene is next.
All right, I'll make that motion with the name change of Kathy McClellan.
All right, the motion's been made to hire Kathy McClellan as our office manager. Any discussion?
So at this point, are we supposed to be talking about qualifications of different candidates and our thoughts of why we would like to go with one versus the
Well, I
other?
said, is there any discussion? If you want to talk about any of that, you're perfectly
I
welcome.
just want to make sure we're in the right posture.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I think it's awesome that we had 4 candidates who were
Outstanding.
interested. And I really enjoyed visiting with each of them and hearing their backgrounds. I thought we had a good, diverse representation. We had a new person to the community. We had longstanding residents. We had people who have experience on other boards. Not really, for me, ranked higher to have some local government experience. And that was in Cassie's case because she served on the Economic Development Board as secretary. And so I feel like she would have a sense of the tempo with public meetings and some of the advanced preparation that goes into these meetings, which is a tribute to Barb's good work so far, that she always comes with, the stack of checks already done and everything already organized for us. It's a huge job. But that was really the thing to me that was the standout, was some local government expertise. And then I really appreciate the fact that Darlene followed up afterward and I thought that showed just
Yeah,
a good
Yeah.
sense of,
I got that today too. Yeah, I think we all did.
Interesting.
I think it's tough, honestly, and for me, it was a tough call between my top 2 choices.
Absolutely.
So,
No doubt.
did anybody have any other thoughts about one candidate versus another, why you would go a particular way, or?
No, after looking at well, I'll let somebody else if they want to go first.
No, I agree. It was very,
Looking at her resume, the experience she has, the background she has, the education she has, the fact that she has done this type of work before, and just is presently working with the Economic Development Board, knows what's out there in the community. She may even be willing to help us bring in more business. And I talked to her about that, and she said she'd be glad to, and, we'll figure out some way to compensate that if need be. If she works extra doing something like that. That kind of goes along with our business development director position that we talked about, and qualifications we want someone to do for that. So, I totally agree. you know, Darlene was good, Brenda was good, Rosanna was good, and I really appreciate them applying. I think there are a lot of opportunities out there for them, and I think somebody's gonna hire them for something. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna recommend all of them to someone that called me today about it. And let them look at their applications, and there may be a job coming out of that for one of them at least.
We would be interested, Mr. Chairman, to get the referrals as well.
I can do that too.
Great.
So are we in the posture of selecting one candidate, or are we going to negotiate with more than one, or what's the?
No, I think we just need to hire one. Don't y'all agree? I mean, I don't know why we
agree with
need to
you.
negotiate,
Yeah,
but they know what
comfortable with that, I mean.
they know what the salary is, if, they know what the
Have we
contract
discussed
is, they've seen the salary and the contract, all of them are,
I did not discuss salary with them.
right.
I wasn't sure what you were coming in at. I told them I started at, but I didn't discuss what you would be paying them, so.
Okay,
I discussed it with each of them.
Okay.
Well, at the special meeting, I think, Chairman Fullwood, I think you said that, or if I don't remember who said it, that it was gonna be at the same rate of pay. So I referred people to Barb's contract.
that's what, I think that's what we discussed.
Okay, I think that's what we discussed.
Before we sign the contract, we can, if we want to do something different, we can do that. Start out at a certain rate and after so long.
Well, at this point,
So it's a year contract,
yeah,
and we have the ability to change it at the end of this this budget year. So we'll see how it works out. Go from there.
so basically, we need to make the offer to, the candidate, and see if they accept.
And if she doesn't accept, we'll go to the next
Right.
highest, which,
Would be Darlene.
Darlene? Yeah.
No. Yes, it would.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay. Well,
I'll make a motion to move forward with that, with accepting the offer and putting the offer to it.
you already made the motion.
well, I made a motion that we hire her, but if we,
Yes.
I'll retract that and allow you to make your motion.
No, I'm with Mike. I think we should make an offer to Cassie and give her the numbers and see if she's solid with it. Yeah.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded that we hire Kathy McClellan as our office manager, for the rest of this year on a contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Okay.
So be it. You wanna contact her?
Do you want me to do that?
I can call her if you like.
I really appreciate it when you called me in last week.
Okay, well, I'll call her, if she's not listening or looking in, I'll call her tonight when I get home. Or she can text me and tell me she heard it, so, one or the other. And really, for Brenda, Darlene, and Rosanna, thank you so much for, applying and, you know, you could only choose one of them. And I hope you'll have success in the future to, do something else. Yes, Pierre? I can't hear you.
Who's gonna send her the contract? So obviously, there's a contract that needs to be signed,
I can draft,
probably needs to be updated, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about, we're gonna offer exactly the same contract.
So what are we offering at the rate now? Where she's at now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be the same contract as Barb's on, and starts when? When will the start date? You're gonna train her,
I'm hoping she's available the last full week of March while I'm on spring break, so I can train her.
just gonna need a week.
Well, she'll need more than a week, but
Yeah.
that's, full days that I can do.
That's all you're gonna offer.
Yeah, well, I'll be there till May, but in the way.
Oh. So you'll be right there helping her if she needs help?
Yeah.
Okay,
Through May, yep, through the May meeting, yep.
so start in May, April.
She will be on her own for the May meeting. I'll
The
be
May
here for the
meeting,
May
she'll be
meeting.
on her own. Okay, you'll be here one more meeting.
I'll be sitting on there in May.
Out where? Out there in May, yeah, up here in April,
With that,
up here in April.
yeah.
And she
Well,
can
I'll sit
sit,
with her in April.
yeah, she can sit beside you there,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah, here. All right, thanks. All
And
right.
maybe we should, make sure that she's willing to accept before we prepare the contract on those terms.
I'll talk to her tonight about that, yeah.
Make the offer.
And, give me before you leave, let me know the exact details. I need to see the contract. I think I have it somewhere, but,
Once I get back onto my regular laptop, I'll email it to you.
all right, please do. As quickly as you can. All right, very good. That went smoother than I thought. Thank y'all, appreciate it. Thank you for your hard work and, because it took time to read all of those resumes, because we thought we were gonna have to do 15 of them.
Yeah,
And thank goodness we did, because we'd have been there all night.
it would have been there all night.
It took, what,
I
3
wanna-
hours to do
I want
4?
to give a shout out to the therapy cats at Corson and Sam, because they are just, like, your office is really great, and your staff, everybody is very welcoming, and thank you for hosting us.
You get along okay with those cats, Pierre?
They're good company.
Yeah. They don't come to you when you call them, man.
They're cat.
Yeah, I know.
Tastes like chicken.
All right, thank you.
Just one more note.
Yeah.
Sorry. The contract will go through September 30th.
Yes. Yes, the end of this
Yes.
budget year,
I'll
and
see
then
you.
we'll have
We're
to,
in line with how we do the
absolutely,
contract for the new fiscal year.
yes,
Okay.
okay. Okay. Next up, interviewing court attorney candidates. We've got 2 here tonight. That's the only 2 that applied. Actually, there were 3, but one of them decided she wanted to be the office manager. So we've only got 2. Both of them are here tonight and prepared to answer any questions we may have. I think we'll start with Patrick, if you'd come up. All right, let's start off with Patrick, and I hope you prepared some sort of questions for him. Go, whoever. Sorry.
Patrick, you work for the city of Neptune Beach, it says. How long did you work for them?
A little over 8 years.
A little over 8 years?
As their city attorney, yes, sir.
And you are familiar with this government work and stuff like we do?
Absolutely. I've been a government attorney. I've represented state and local governments, and I'm board certified by the Florida Bar in city, county, and local government.
Can you tell the board a little bit about what's involved in that certification?
Sure. So the bar has a number of areas that it certifies or makes available certification to its lawyers. City, county, local government is just one. Business litigation, real property, there's a number of certifications. You have to practice for a certain period of time within that field. You have to get fellow attorneys that practice in that field to sponsor your application, and then you have to sit for an exam. And so I sat for the exam 2 or 3 years ago. You have to basically recertify every 5 years to maintain the certification.
So it's a lot of study, a lot of hours. I've done the update course, which I like, but I'm not certified.
Yes, when I took the Florida Bar exam in 1998, I told myself I would never take another exam. But in working with the city of Neptune Beach, I thought it was appropriate to get certified. And it actually, I'm not going to say that it wasn't that hard, but when you practice in that area of law for long enough, you should know what the answers on the exam are. So I found it to actually be a pretty good process.
I have to say that, in my conversations with other local government lawyers, the lawyers that I've dealt with that are certified in that area, I've been able to readily call on them with just quick questions, sunshine law questions, procedure questions, and I have found that the certification lives up to its name. Whereas sometimes you meet attorneys who graduate from great law schools, and then you're disappointed with, with the way they come across in practice. But I've found that the certification really does hold true to being an indicator of great work in local government law.
Well, I think there's a reason they publish the Government and Sunshine Manual every year, because it changes every year.
Yeah.
And circumstances change, and the question, I wouldn't be able to answer it readily, but this is my area, this is what I've been doing for over 22 years.
And thank you too for supplying references. I did call, two of your references, and they, were very positive in their remarks. So thank you for providing some.
Well, that's why you put those names on your reference list.
Yeah.
I do want to add, I think I've spoken to most of you. I'm happy to answer any questions about my background. I have looked into some of the matters that you all as a board are dealing with. I don't represent you, so I'm not going to comment on any of those, but I am aware of what's going on. I understand there's no good time to change legal counsel when you have active cases going on. As I said to Chairman Fullwood today when we spoke, I don't see anything that would concern me about being able to jump in and take over in a seamless transition. There's always going to be some additional work that needs to be done to get up to speed, just like Mr. Sturgis has had to do. But I don't have any concerns in that regard.
You definitely come highly recommended, my friend. You definitely come highly recommended.
Appreciate that.
Any questions?
Carol?
No, I talked to him for about 30 or 40 minutes several months ago, weeks ago, or yesterday, whatever it was. And I was real impressed with him, and, he's got some good work, got a good resume and stuff. What about this lawsuit with, going with the city? Can you fall right into that and go take over it?
I have looked at it. I haven't taken a deep dive, because you're not my client, and frankly, I have other clients that I'm working for. But I have taken a look at it. I did talk to Judge Brand a little bit about it, before he left. And again, because I'm not your attorney, I can't comment on the merits of it. That would be a violation of our rules. And I spoke to Chairman Fullwood about that as well, but I'm aware of what you're going through.
Now, you haven't been employed with the city of Fernandina at any time before, have you? So there won't be a conflict come up on that?
No.
And I think I asked you that when me and you talked.
Yeah.
In this area, in Nassau County, I've only represented a handful of private clients, but I've never worked for the city. We did do some advisory volunteer work with the county and some urban planning, but that was through the Urban Land Institute. They were not a client. That was just some work we did with them on helping develop some plans for west of I-95.
Thank you for coming to all of the meetings in the interim, hoping that this would be on the agenda.
Sure. Happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions.
Carol, is that it?
Good?
Do what?
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. What other government agencies like this have you worked for?
Well, again, I've represented the city of Neptune Beach, but in some one-off capacities, over the years, I've represented several city and county governments. So it would be specific tasks as opposed to actually sitting as an attorney. And then, my time with the Water Management District, the Department of Environmental Protection, also represented boards in that capacity. But, throughout Florida, I've done some work for Walton County, for the city of Jacksonville, for Polk County, and some Central Florida, just a number, but not in a sit-at-the-dais capacity, more in retained to help with a specific project, but all subject to the same rules and, regulations that you all have to abide by.
Have you been involved in any government lawsuits
Absolutely.
that resemble what we're going through right now?
I have been involved, again, in some one-offs with, local government versus local government or agency versus agency. But, especially with my work with the city of Neptune Beach, while we did have a case against the city of Jacksonville, regarding, garbage management tipping fees, but most of the litigation was either, involving, development projects or, contractual issues. It's rare when you find one government entity going against another, but I have done that, yes.
Have you done any grant work?
Yes, I have.
Can you give us an example?
I've done some grant work, through private clients, getting some beach projects done, and some, what is a new concept, some managed retreat on the shoreline. And then I've done grants through the city of Neptune Beach. I did some grant working with the Department of Environmental Protection, so I have done some grant work.
Do you know what FSTED Council is?
I'm sorry?
FSTED Council, do you know what that is?
I don't know the acronym.
Okay.
I know what FSTED.
Florida Seaport, let's see, Planning, FST.
I have.
Florida Seaport Transportation Planning. Say it, Chris, what is it? I know what it is.
Seaports, transportation, and economic
Development, there you go.
I have not, but I've done core work, I've done DOT work, on the grant side.
They're basically the people we get most of our money from.
Right. I've heard that.
They award that money to us.
Right, I've heard that.
How about FDOT?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We get our grants mostly from FDOT.
Right.
They've been very generous to us. I talked to you today about availability.
Yes, sir.
We have to make sure that you're available to us when we need you. Something may come up, we need to talk to you, before we do something. We just want to get the legal side of it. And I ask you, if I called you, how quickly you could respond, and I understand that there may be times you'll have to get back to me.
Sure.
But, we just want to be assured that we're able to contact you and you respond as quickly as you can.
Right, and I appreciate that question, and we did speak about that at length. I'll comment in a couple of ways. First, you would be treated just like any other client, which means you're going to feel like you're my only client. That's how I operate. How it's always operated. I think I mentioned maybe the last time I spoke before you, I don't have statistics on this, but I generally think I can eliminate about half of my competition simply by returning a phone call in a timely manner. The other thing, and I learned this in many different ways working for the city of Neptune Beach, having regular conversations with board members helps me understand what my duties, what my instructions are, helps me understand how to get you where you're trying to go. If we're not talking, then I don't know what it is you need, and I don't know where you're trying to go. And so regular communication, not just before a meeting, you mentioned maybe once a week, I would encourage and hope for that for all of you. And I would have no problem being at the meetings, and you would have no problem getting a hold of me.
I think we discussed that I told you that I would call you at least once a week.
Right.
Sometimes a lot more than that, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, because I've done that in the past with all our attorneys.
Right.
I mean, it's how I learn, and make sure I know the legal side of the arguments. And I just want to make sure that you're available for that, and you just said you were, so.
Absolutely.
Would you charge us for any time you spend on the phone talking to us?
It depends on how the arrangement is ultimately set up, whether that's in the normal course of business, getting ready for a meeting or a standard topic, versus it's about, litigation that may or may not be billed separately. Something else that I pride myself on is making sure my clients understand what our arrangement is in a business sense, not just the customer service legal sense, but what they can expect from me month to month. That's, what it's going to cost them, what things they're asking me to do that fit under what bucket of retention. And with a situation like like this, there are, different arrangements. There's, what I understand what you've done in the past is there's a monthly flat fee to come to the meetings and deal with the ordinary business of the board. And so if you call me 5 times in one day about something that's on the agenda, or a contract we're reviewing, or procurement, or a grant, that's the normal course of business of the board. And that would be included in the monthly retainer if that's how we had it set up. If it's specific to, some particular litigation and our collective understanding is that is being billed separately, then that's how it would be handled. And we may need to discuss how that works going forward. Just a reminder of, the more questions, the more review, the more documents on this, you know, and that just goes into what you all were talking about before, turning a case into one that's actually all about legal fees versus, you know, either the merits or settling it and getting out of the way.
I think we need to know what those charges might be.
Sure.
Before we make a decision.
I don't know that I can project that because I don't know what all your cases are. I know that if you set it up where the monthly retainer covers the ordinary business of the port, then that's what would be included in it, no matter how many times you call. If there's a separate litigation matter that's being billed hourly, then generally speaking, Chairman, that's how it would be handled. But I can't tell you right now because I don't know all of the matters and I don't know what the terms of any agreement would be.
Could you tell us what your billable rate would be though?
I think what I heard at the first meeting I showed up was that the board was comfortable with $200 an hour. I don't remember the monthly retainer number.
I think right now it's 900.
19, right?
Just like 1,900.
Yeah,
I think it's 1900.
that sounds familiar for Judge Brandon's arrangement.
Right.
And then the hourly rate for additional was 200 and none of that's an issue.
Yeah, it was like 14 basic hours and that
So
is.
basically, you'd be willing to work off the contract we've issued the last two attorneys.
The ones I've seen, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions?
And I know this goes without saying for a large firm, but you're fully insured with liability, professional liability insurance.
I sure hope
And
so.
there's no issue with representing a government entity in that
No,
firm?
no,
Okay.
now, I think I mentioned this too the last time I spoke. I don't have the full list of parties that the board deals with from a conflicts perspective. I would need that. I generally know, I had sort of a truncated list that I got from Judge Brandon, and we cleared those, so we're cleared with the city, we're cleared with the big ones, but I would want to get a full list, and it would have to go back 3 years because that's what the Barber rules require. So we'd have to do a conflicts check, but I don't anticipate any problem. The firm doesn't have any problem with the rate. They told me if this is what I want to pursue, then go pursue it. I haven't actually seen the insurance document, but I'm fairly certain we're well insured.
Thank you.
You know, we're 200+ lawyers in 5 different states. We do a lot of, as a firm, we do a lot of waterfront type work, court work in Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. So, you know, I mentioned to Chairman Fullwood and I mentioned to you, Commissioner Hill, that you're not just getting Patrick, you're getting the full force, and, you know, weaponry of a large sophisticated law firm.
And we did talk about your availability to every stated court meeting, that you would be able to be here.
Right, provided,
Without question.
provided any, you know, exigent act of God.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But, you know, Wednesdays, once a month, or not, it's not a problem.
Yeah, we don't want you to catch covered.
Right. Well, I've already had it, so I'm good there. I've had it and I've been vaccinated.
There you go.
If I catch it again, we got a big problem.
And we have a lot of special meetings, and we'll work calendars around that,
Sure,
because we expect you to be at those special meetings,
of course.
because we also always need legal advice if we need to ask questions. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Appreciate you
time.
being here all these months, and we'll interview the next
Okay.
candidate.
I appreciate your consideration.
We'll either make a decision tonight or think about it till next month and make a decision then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay, next candidate is our current interim attorney. Bob, would you mind stepping up to the microphone, let us so you can face us all, and we'll, yeah, watch that, thing.
That's what I usually do, Bob.
What did you say?
That's what I usually do, drop it all on the floor.
All right. Who wants to start?
You know, Mr. Sturgis is a well-qualified attorney. He's been our interim attorney for a couple of months or so. He's got a very good, resume and background. I mean, I don't know any questions that I haven't asked him
in the last 5 years or so, 6 years, that I keep asking. He knows about the special meetings, meetings that we had, what we budget for it. So I got to say. I'm with, Carl.
You got nothing?
I'm pretty good with, Sturgis and what his recommendations are and all.
Could you just give me a little bit, I wasn't familiar with the Florida Association of Counties Trust. What is that organization?
That's an organization out of Tallahassee, and it's associated with the Florida Association of Counties. It's a trust that counties can opt into to be insured for liability. Both the commissioners and the county itself are insured through the trust. I'll make an insurance. Sponsored by the Florida
Do
Association.
we use them for insurance or no? No, we don't use them for insurance, do we?
I think at one point you did.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
National County?
The trust only, provides insurance to counties. So local wouldn't even qualify. If you're a member of the Florida Association of Counties, the trust can provide you with insurance.
So it's like a public insurance.
Very good analogy.
And are you, do you carry professional liability insurance?
I can, I have no need for
But
it.
you don't currently?
I don't currently, but I can get it. I've been in contact with, anticipating the question, I've been in contact with insurers. Maybe I should explain that what I do primarily is, as you know, mediations. Mediators don't require insurance. Other than that, all my work comes from other attorneys, whether they're judges or attorneys giving me mediations or attorneys that send me appellate work, a brief they want me to review. So it's for that reason that I haven't needed coverage. But I'll get it if it's required. I have never had a grievance, never had a complaint.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I don't know anything else.
Well, having known Mr. Sturgis as a commissioner, and what he's done as an attorney for us so far, my questions have all been answered, so I don't have any additional questions.
I did not know that you owned Coconut Tape Records.
I own that company. I started it in Jacksonville in
Yeah.
1980, and then opened stores, in Georgia as well, until Vinyl Records nosedived.
I used to buy music from them.
Well, you know, the truth is lost to my machine.
I've been supporting for a long time.
Arlington was the first one that we had one in.
Yeah, that's the one I used.
Yeah. Mhm.
What about St. Arlington?
I'm sorry?
What about St. Arlington?
Right.
Arlington Expressway.
From the mall, you know,
Yeah.
where Atlantic and Arlington
What-
feed off.
What's the restaurant that's right there in front? The restaurant in front, what was that, Bob?
Right now, it's Olive Garden.
Olive Garden, yeah, right next to Olive Garden.
And that was,
And
I
I
was
just,
offered the opportunity to start that store after I was vice president of Peaches Records and Tapes for a number of years, and that was the largest retailer in the world.
I did not know you were on a swimming scholarship at the University of Georgia.
I still fit into my letter sweater.
What events?
I was a businessman.
Oh,
If they had the mile, I'd swim that, otherwise, just 500, sometimes a relay, but,
That's when my mom once, when I was in the Boy Scouts, and got an award from President Kennedy, and about killed me.
well, I won the Ocean Marathon swim out of Jacksonville
Really?
Beach, not too long ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't win that award.
You can hardly stay afloat.
I hate swim, I tell you.
Well, Bob, we've known you now for a while. You were commissioner for 4 years. Your advice on the commission was excellent, always. We turn to you sometimes for legal advice. You gave it to us as a commissioner, and whatever knowledge you might have had about whatever issues attorney-wise, but we also had an attorney here to back you up, or give us a different opinion. And we've had you for our attorney now for a couple of months. Personally, I think you've done an excellent job. I think you've handled our court case very well. I think we're pretty much in line with accomplishing that goal. We have other issues coming up. Bob's very familiar with all of those. We wouldn't have to train him in anything or give him time to learn anything. This is a very difficult decision for me. I'm one of these that hates change. I've never have liked change. Something works, stay with it. But let me remind you, this contract only goes to October. And we started, we can hire a new attorney if we need to. We can do whatever we want.
Is the interview over?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. I'm just, this is my opinion on the candidate. So, unless anybody else got any questions? If you got-
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if we were in discussion.
Oh, no, but any other questions of Bob? Okay, thanks, Bob, you return to your station?
Can I just add that the
Yeah, you
reason
can
I'm
say
doing
anything you
this-
want.
Okay, well, I should go. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm just so personally passionate about the Ocean Highway and Port Authority. I just wanted to succeed to the point where it's almost become a mission. So I just want you to know that's why I'm doing this. I want to talk a little bit more about the practice of law. It'll take 15 seconds.
Sure.
You know, Patrick said very well that he could be able to understand the things that he logically can't know yet. That's what good attorneys do. As an appellate lawyer, I'm always getting brand new issues. And look at Judge Branham. He's in criminal felony now. Yeah, he's never done that. So I have to say that I'm not fully aware of everything that a certified local government attorney knows. I've read the certification review course book. It must be 500 pages. I understood every word of it. So if there's any hesitancy because I'm not certified in local government, I just hope I can spell that a little bit. That's all.
Thank you. All right, let's go to discussion phase. Who wants to start?
So I'm happy to start, as a lone lawyer on the board. I mean, I try not to jump in on legal issues. I tend to jump in more on sunshine issues because sunshine matters can get any of us removed from office. And so we are ultimately responsible as board members for complying with the sunshine law. And so I tend to speak up when I think something is amiss there. And I hope it's not.
No, that's perfectly fine. You should.
Okay, it's just, if I just get that feeling in my gut, I'm like, wait, let's stop and think.
Yeah.
But I try not to play lawyer on the board.
Yeah.
And, I remember when I interviewed for this position, that you all asked both me and Jeb to leave the room so that you could deliberate to discuss the candidate. And I did later listen to the tape of that meeting, and I heard what was said about me while I was out of the room, and I thought you all did a thoughtful process. But I'm not gonna try to outvote any of you tonight or try to sway you one way or the other because I'm a lawyer. I am going to appeal to you as a fellow commissioner that in order to make sure that we are complying with the rules that we need to comply with in order to do our job and to stay in these roles, that I think it's super important to care a lot about the local government piece. And I'm not board certified in local government law. Tammy Bach is board certified in local government law. And Commissioner Ross is here tonight, and he could vouch for what, her capabilities in that regard because of her certification. But I know from my personal perspective, that's a very important thing to have. And I think I raised that to you all when you were considering your final choice. way back when I was a candidate, I said, I'm not certified in local government law, but if anyone comes forward who is, you should really look closely at them. I think we have a candidate here in Mr. Krajewski who is, and I'm saying this as someone who really, I frankly don't know him very well. He was recommended to me through a third party. So I'm just saying that what he's offering us is an incredible deal. It's an incredible deal to have an attorney with his level of experience, with a firm behind him that has attorneys in other practice areas. And we're going up against the city of Bernardino Beach in litigation. They're hiring Bryant Miller Olive. They're hiring other board-certified lawyers to argue these cases. And so we don't have that budget. And he's offering to represent us for what we're paying now, which is amazing. Don't raise your rates. And I just think we should, I want to make a motion to hire or to entertain an engagement letter for Mr. Krajewski.
Would you be more comfortable if they left the room so we can all discuss this privately?
That's, I've already said what
Would
I
y'all
want.
mind doing that?
No.
Just give us a few minutes and so we can discuss it. Of course, you know, you can always look at it later, but so everybody will feel comfortable about saying what they need to say right now. Let's hold off on the motion for just a minute. Anybody else got any comments?
I've talked to a couple people, not that I know a lot of people. Oh, I'm sorry. I've talked to a few. I've talked to a couple people, and Patrick comes very highly recommended in the circles that he's known in. And I'm not putting Bob down in any way. I just, in my chit chat, what I've heard his qualifications are and what he's all about, I've heard some really good things. So I definitely am, I'm in support of him, you know, in helping us in our endeavors. I think some new blood would be, it's like Jeb. I think Jeb jumped in right away and it was a great fit for us. I think that's what we need. I think we need a good fit. That's all. That's how I feel.
A question for you. Do you think the ongoing litigation we have, it would be hurt anyway by changing attorneys right now?
I don't think so, because like I said, a couple people that I've spoken to about Patrick and what his litigation and what follows him, I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that at all.
If we're moving toward an appeal situation, I think having, and this is a little bit of legal strategy, but if you have a law firm like Balch and Bingham behind your legal counsel, that may help to encourage the city to settle when they might otherwise litigate.
Carol?
Both of them are real good attorneys, and I've talked to both of them at great lengths, you know. And, Mr. Sturgis was one of our commissioners for 4 years and served, and he got defeated this last election, you know. And we're here to represent the Nassau County people, and I feel that our best choice would be Patrick. He's well qualified. Sturgis is well qualified, but I believe our best choice would be Patrick.
Well, I'd like to point out that he was defeated as a commissioner, not defeated as an attorney. But the qualifications that he brings to the table are, you know, having the familiarity of the court, to me, is a plus. However, I can say that Jeb, when he came to us, all we knew him as was a governmental attorney. And he had a good background, but he had that qualification with him. He was able to jump in. However, at that time, we didn't have any litigation going on that was pressing or demanding. And I just feel like Bob has a good good balance and a good handle on that right now. And, you know, if it comes to a point of being governmental qualified, then I'm sure that he could get that. And I don't see that as a issue, and that shouldn't be a deciding factor on
He's
hiring or
not
not hiring.
qualified to get it because he doesn't have enough experience to get it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Yeah, so I just wanted to say something about like being able to just step in and take over things. This last month, he billed us $2,700 for prepping for a hearing where the pleading was prepared by our previous counsel. $2,700. That's it. That's not a savings because he has, I mean, I'm just talking dollars. I didn't tell him.
You don't think another attorney would have done the same thing?
I'm just saying he's not coming into it with some sort of like inertia that's gonna save us money, because his bill is pretty much exactly what Jeb's first bill was. Jeb was a brand new, it was $4,700. His is $200 more than Jeb's first full-month bill. That's all. And you would expect some savings if you were dealing with someone who is already
Ahead of the ball game.
supposedly, I'm not trying to be, like, I just think we should be thoughtful about that. If that's really what we think we're getting, we should be getting it.
Okay. I don't have any objection to Patrick. He's an excellent attorney. I think he'd be good for the board. However, Bob is very familiar with what's going on at the port, what our needs are. He's already fully qualified to handle those matters. As far as I'm concerned, he's done a great job doing that. He did a great job with the court hearings. I'm sure other attorneys could have done the same thing, but at this point, like I said, I just hate change, and we're only hiring him until the end of this fiscal year. And then we can, if we feel like we need to make a change, we could, but I am so worried about changing attorneys right now with our court case going on, because he has to prepare something to give to the judge in the next few months. And
Actually, it's the city that has to brief it.
okay, but we have to respond to it after that. I think he told us that. And
The brief is on the whether or
let
not.
me talk now, please. So I'm just concerned that changing an attorney now would affect, being prepared for whatever we need to do with this pilot issue. There are also some other things coming up that I think Bob is well qualified to handle for us. So I hope you'll maybe decide to keep him at least till, the end of this fiscal year, and then we'll reassess. That's all I gotta say. Okay?
May I make my motion?
Sure.
We can, some more? I'd like to make a motion to, request from Patrick Krachowski an engagement letter to represent us as our attorney for the remainder of the fiscal year.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to ask Patrick Krachowski to submit a letter to become our attorney. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say one thing. I, understand your motion, and I would love for this to be unanimous, but we're faced with a real dilemma here. We've got two people that are just outstandingly qualified for this position, and we're not going to make a wrong decision, no matter which way we vote. So, but I just want to put it in that I would love for it to be a 5-0 vote, but I don't know that it will, but, that's my feelings on it. Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, Barb, let's call the roll on this one, please.
Commissioner Franklin?
Patrick,
Yes? You're yes to the motion?
Yes to the motion.
what'd you say?
Yes to the motion. You want us to
Yes
proceed
to
with
the
Patrick?
motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Sorry, no.
And Commissioner, Chairman Foley.
No. All right, unanimous to make, Patrick our attorney going forward. Motion was passed,
Approved by 3-2.
4 to 3.
3-2.
Three.
Okay. Theo, would you ask him to come back in?
Patrick?
Okay, we've had discussion, and everybody expressed their opinions and views, and we weighed all the alternatives and possibilities, and what we decided was to hire Patrick as our attorney going forward. Patrick, can you come up for a minute, please? We appreciate you applying. We congratulate you on having become our new attorney. There's a lot for you to learn right now.
Sure is.
And I expect you to work with our present attorney to get, bring yourself up to the level that we need for you.
Absolutely.
And we need to make sure that we have any phone numbers or email addresses that make sure all the commissioners have all that, so we can contact you and send you stuff and send it to us. We have all ours already, I think.
Yep.
So, congratulations, and we'll can discuss after the meeting what we need you to do, or we can, anybody want to discuss anything now with you?
Our motion was to request an engagement letter.
Right.
For your term,
Yeah.
Right.
and then do we need to, maybe, are we gonna schedule a special meeting to do that, or?
We can, add it to our special meeting that we need for the, Chris's item. We can do that same time, can't we, Chris? Yeah, it doesn't matter to you, does it?
Do we have a date for that yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
We'll discuss that.
Okay, guys.
So we need to make sure you're available.
Well, I appreciate your confidence, I appreciate your selection, I'm looking forward to it. I'll get all of my information, obviously, to Barb, and then work with her and Mr. Sturgis to make sure I have a complete list of, potential adverse neutral parties, so we can, do everything we need to do that the bar requires, and then we'll get you, a draft engagement letter to review. Absolutely.
I want to tell you, this was not a unanimous decision, but that does not mean we are not in full support of your ability and going forward with you as our attorney. We know you'll do an excellent job. You've got great qualifications, and we look forward to working with you and hope you will look forward to working with us.
Absolutely, I appreciate the support of the entire board. I know it was a difficult decision. I've
Yeah.
watched you for 3 months now, struggle through it, and I'll do everything I can to not let you down, and so will the rest of my firm.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bob. I don't know where to go from here. I don't think that we don't appreciate what you've done for us so far. I personally think you're an excellent attorney. I think you are good for the board. I think you would have been good going forward. And as I told Patrick, this was not a unanimous decision, but it doesn't mean those that might have voted against hiring you has anything against you personally, and even professionally. Some just thought Patrick had better qualifications. That's their choice. That's why we got a 5-member board to make these decisions. We appreciate everything, and we hope you will cooperate with Patrick in getting him all the information that he's gonna request, and we want you here for at least one more month, I guess. And, is that what we're gonna do in the next month?
Yeah.
You'll turn it over?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I could tell by the lack of questions in my interview where it was going, and I've already told Patrick in the hallway that I'll do whatever he needs to get him up to speed.
Very good. I'm glad. I'm happy about that, and I know Patrick's happy about that. We thank you for the 4 years you spent on this board as a commissioner, for the time you spent here as our attorney. You took the reins when we needed somebody right away, and got an important thing done for us, with the court situation. And we appreciate all the hard work you did, and of course, if we need other things in the future, we may call on you, at least for advice or anything else. I know I will. I still got your phone number.
In that regard, I just want to leave you with a thought. I'm not really asking anything, but there is an option of allowing me to complete the city litigation. It's all in my head. It's going to my backyard, which is an appeal. It's going to the court that I was a senior staff attorney at for years. Appeals has been at least half my career, 30 years. Just an option. I'm not asking you to do anything, just something to keep in mind.
Patrick, why don't you talk to Bob about that, and you two come to, I'm sorry. Yeah, you two talk together and come to some decision about whether that would be feasible or for us, or better for us, or whatever. And let us know, and we'll certainly let you know.
Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to just do this for a little while. It was a highlight, I just am so thankful. Thank you, Bob.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bob.
Now, when will Patrick take over as our attorney?
May.
April?
April.
We're having a special meeting.
Oh, forever. So he'll be taking over in April?
Yeah.
We scheduled a special meeting.
Schedule a special meeting, and he'll be there for that. I guess, we'll see what he's got to present to us, and we'll go from there.
So then, by the April meeting, I guess.
By our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay? And you will come to our next meeting?
Of course.
Okay. All right, any other discussion about this? All right, let's move on. All right, there is currently an outstanding public records request. Where do we stand on that, Chris? I know that was kind of thrown off to you. There's been a public records request that we don't have the information that's been requested, and I think it was sent to you to figure out whether you could comply with it legally or.
Commissioner Ross actually copied me on the initial request, and I think that was in December of 2020.
That's correct, and Jeb responded to that. It's just taking time back and forth responding, and then the city responded back, or Commissioner Ross responded back, so it's taken this long to get it worked out as to who can provide what information, and whether the information needed is a legal process to request from you. So where does all this stand with you?
If you want to know where it stands with respect to OHPA, then you have to ask your counsel. If you're asking me where it stands with respect to worldwide terminals, that's a different question.
Well, I know where it stands with OHPA, and I think we've gotten the information that
Jeff had advised us on it.
Yeah, he advised us on it, he wrote it in the minutes, it's in the minutes as to what we supplied, and I thought that was supplied to Commissioner Ross, is that right?
Yes, we provided everything that he asked for that we had.
That we had,
That's correct.
and what we didn't have, we turned over to the
Worldwide.
Chris, to Worldwide, and whatever. That's what we wanna know, what your,
You were gonna talk to your attorney or somebody, Chris.
Fulfilling
Yeah,
those.
we're actually engaging outside counsel to respond to this, so I'm not at liberty to discuss it any further, but you'll all hear from our counsel once he's ever had an opportunity to be engaged and to respond. Under the Sunshine Law, we'll of course comply with the law.
Sure, okay. Everybody comfortable with that? Bob, do you have some concern about that?
In going through Jeff's file, the only component that I didn't see that I want the board to be aware of is that in the operating agreement, section 8A3 requires the operator to, quote, ensure that the public records that are exempt or confidential and exempt from public records disclosure requirements are not disclosed, except as authorized by law. So I didn't see that Jeff had ever mentioned that, but you should know that the operating agreement requires Worldwide to exercise any exemptions for privileged and confidential information.
Right, well, that's-
And I think that's where it's headed.
Yeah, that's where Chris was gonna find out if it was exempt.
Oh, yeah. Having his attorney look at it and see what's exempt and what isn't.
Yeah, what has to be
He
released.
will comply with public records,
Right.
Is there,
sunshine law.
is there a specific date that we would have your stated exemptions for each item that's being requested?
You'll hear from our counsel, I don't have a date, we're still working on it.
Who is your counsel?
We're still working on maintaining counsel. I said we're in the process of engaging counsel.
So can we, for 81 days on this, to respond, for us to respond to a public records request?
You're assuming that there was proper service, and I'm not gonna debate that, but you have responded. Why are you concerned about what our entity is?
It has been responded to.
It doesn't concern you, really. We're a separate legal entity.
So the public records request, well, it's true what you just said is that it's a separate legal entity. That part is true. But under the Chapter 190, the Florida statutes, we are not by contract as a public entity capable of evading the public records laws by contracting with a private entity to do public business. So by contracting with us, and that's why the operating agreement says in section 7.4, I think, I'm pulling it up right now, that the records that are in your, hold on, 8.3, that you are now responsible for complying with public records laws. So this is actually our problem. As a public entity, it is our problem. And we can't ignore it. It would be wrong for us to ignore it because you're saying you're waiting to hire an attorney. So all I'm saying is, give us a date by which you will provide the specific exemptions to each request. So you just have to say, under the statutes, this is exempt because it's a safety plan, or because it's a competitive
Pricing structure.
competitive information. And so you just have to specifically state which exemption you think applies to each request. You can't just deny.
Thanks for the education, but I also don't think it's appropriate, and I hope you're not giving me legal advice as a commissioner. We're hiring an attorney, we'll get legal advice as to what's appropriate, what's the proper response, and what's the timing thereof, and I'll inform you as soon as I know.
The board has complied with all requests that we are legally responsible to reply to. It's up now for what we cannot reply to. We don't have the information for the operator to do that. And he says they're engaged in hiring an attorney to find out what legally they have to offer and what they do not. So I don't see what we need to talk about it anymore.
Do you have any advice on the matter?
I understand your concern, and the reason I read that operating agreement provision is that, in essence, if some of this does come back down on the Port Authority, your agreement, not an indemnification, but you obviously can recover any fines.
So is this a default under the agreement? Is this considered a default?
So it's just an agreement for them to assert exemptions and privileges. And if, for example, they fail to do it, then
It says an 8.3 operator as an independent contractor is required to comply with public records laws and specifically to, and then it lists keeping and maintaining upon request, providing facilities to make copies, ensure the public records that are exempt are confidential. So they're allowed to protect records, but they are also, in the first case, required to comply with the public records law.
and I was just referring you to the one you ended with, ensure, you keep reading.
So would they be in default under 8.3A?
I don't know what they have, and I don't know what their exemptions of trade secrets are, and if I did, I would.
I think it says they have to respond in a reasonable amount of time,
Yeah,
and that's not defined anywhere that I know of.
well, that's why I think it's great that they're getting an attorney to assure that no exemptions or privileges or trade secrets issues are waived.
Yeah.
Well, I've not heard that Mr. Ragucci has denied giving that information. He had just said that he's working on it.
It's a question of law for our outside counsel to advise us as to what compliance means. Compliance with the Sunshine Law means only producing things that are required to be produced. As Mr. Sturgis has been saying, there are many exemptions and there's many types and categories of information that have various exemptions. And you're still complying once you assert your exemptions. So we are looking at all of the questions, and we will be responding to each one by either producing something if there's no exemptions or privileges, or denying to produce it, and stating the reason therefore. That's work for a legal attorney. I can't do that. I'm running a corporation's business. I'm not advising our corporation on legal issues, so it's complicated. And because we have an unusual situation in a way, or maybe not unusual, but there's specific case law about where the line is drawn between a public entity that is completely required to produce everything and a private business that happens to have one contract with a public agency. All of the contracts that we have with our private shipping companies are private to private. So this has to be looked at very carefully. There's confidentiality, there's trade secrets, there's commercially sensitive proprietary information, and they're all legitimately recognized under the Sunshine Law. It's an extensive request, and it requires, unfortunately, an extensive amount of work, and I need to find the right attorney to make sure we get the best possible advice. So it takes some time. We are working on it.
I think I've said that we've complied with the part that we need to comply with, and we cannot force Worldwide to comply with their part. That's on them, and what's left does not, as far as I know, apply to us. No, wait a minute, let me finish. And I don't think we can, like I said, force them to comply tomorrow. They have to go through the process of figuring out what it is. If Mr. Ross doesn't agree with that, he can file legal documents to do something about it. But as of now, we're covered, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm sorry to interrupt earlier.
Go ahead.
I misstated this relevant chapter, it's 119, but the statute provides specific timelines for complying with public records requests and specific language that has to be included in our contract regarding custodians of public records, which is what you would be as a contractor. And
Again, that's a legal conclusion, so I'm not going to agree or disagree, but you're just making an assertion.
we can't,
Hold up.
ultimately, under the statute, we can't avoid civil action by waiting for Mr. Capucci to hire counsel and respond in a timely manner. It's an 81-day old request. And so if we're not.
What is the time limit?
We disagree with the 81 days.
What is the time limit? What does it say it is?
8 business days,
And we responded within 8 business days.
but that's for the contractor to provide the specific, so.
Well, that's on the contractor, it's not on us. Why are you hounding this on us? I mean, let them do what they want to do or need to do. And if Mr. Ross doesn't like that, he can file whatever legal paperwork he needs to file.
And you don't
It won't
think
come back on
you don't
us.
think we have to, like,
No.
make a declaration of default, or?
Do we?
No, I agree with, Jeff's approach.
Yeah. So, that's enough said about that, let's move on. All right, what's next? Let's take a 5-minute break. We've been here for a while now. What, we can't tell? Really? No.
We can talk about the weather.
It's so pretty out.
Yeah. Still live streaming.
Huh?
You're on there.
Do we have to discuss that, PAB tonight? The City of Fernandina PAB, comprehensive plan? New business comprehensive plan?
No.
We talked about the comprehensive plan.
Oh, we already talked about what we needed to say on it? I thought we,
Not what we needed to say, that you needed to get us an RFP.
okay, all right, so we don't need to,
At the special meeting.
all right, okay. I usually want to get this bogged down on something else.
Yeah. Pay attention to it.
Can we order a pizza?
Yeah. Really. Or if you didn't put the, what's the name of it, the resolution about, in the packet.
The resolution.
2015-3?
No, the one, about,
Oh, yeah, that's it. We're cool.
Resolution for this meeting? Yeah.
no, it's a past
Oh,
resolution.
the past one, 215-3? Yeah, it's in there. Is it not in there under, new business?
Let me check.
I didn't see it, but.
You didn't see it?
But do you have a copy of it? So what you can put a copy of it in there.
I thought I had included it in the packet.
Oh, I can't find it.
Oh, well, maybe I didn't.
Maybe in there, I just can't find it.
It's on the website.
Yeah, I know it's on the website.
I
Everybody knows.
sent it out to everybody afterwards, I must have missed it. Oh, yeah, I did it, I printed it out.
Do you have a copy of it with you?
Julia has my packet, so yes, I do have a copy of it. No, it's not in the meeting packet, I don't, no.
trying to be wishy-washy. Oh, I apologize, it was in,
It was about the hit
I can email it out to everybody.
I said, you would as well.
It's on their website, it's on the left-hand side, and it's on the link, Code of Ethics.
Code of ethics, that's what I was.
Yeah.
I can't get the website up.
You can use my tablet if you want, or I could airdrop it.
Could I? I just want to go over that real quick. Thank you.
That's where my agenda is too, though. I might be able to air print it for you.
What?
Maybe print it to a, there's a printer here. I might be able to print it to our printer. Oh, I think she's got it.
You making a copy of it?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
I just want to read this one part and then talk about it for a second. In 2015, we adopted a resolution.
Bring us back to order, Dan.
What?
Bring us back to order.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you back on?
Commission back to order. In 2015, we passed a resolution to establish stability as the standard for all public discourse at public meetings. And one of the provisions of that was we would have a policy that said, there are several aspects to this, but I want to read you one in particular. Civility in discourse is not an option. While disagreement is expected, it is not appropriate to make abusive, acrimonious, belittling, or disparaging remarks to or about any other person, business, or entity. Advocacy of one position by destructive abuse of another's will not be tolerated. Such destructive discourse will be ruled out of order by the chairman. I want us to make sure we continue to follow this resolution, and that there's a lot more aspects, and I know everybody has it, so be sure you read over that. Read over it before every meeting, so you'll know. We should be tolerant of everybody's thoughts and concerns, and not be uncivil. And that's exactly what this says.
That's the Scotty bill.
Let's try to follow that from now on.
Thank you for reading that. When I saw it on the agenda, I was glad that it was coming up because,
Hand this over.
it actually was something that, I wanted to raise the question about rules of procedure, because parliamentary procedure is supposed to allow for our board to do what the majority wills, but the parliamentary procedure protects the minority members who may not win the vote. It gives them the opportunity to be heard. And I know we follow, this says that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. And I would like us to do that.
That's the Scotty law. Scotty shut up his mouth, I got you.
Bob, you remember what we adopted about Robert's Rules of Order?
I'll keep it short, because it's gonna sound familiar real quick.
Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order was created, for the handling of bodies consisting of dozens of people, really. And what it came down to was any entity with 12 or less people, Robert's Rules has special rules. They only take up a couple of pages, and those small board rules are the way the board has been running things. This board has never, ever complied with Robert's Rules of Order.
Right.
Unless you just adopt the small board rules, which are very simple, gives the chairman a great deal of discretion. So, does that ring a bell?
I think we adopted the small board rules, didn't we?
Well, when I was chairman, and then it changed back, which is fine, because one of the small board rules is that a motion doesn't have to be seconded.
Yeah.
There is a discussion,
Right.
that kind of thing. So there was, some disagreement with Robert's Rules, but, there's just no way that you're gonna get everyone to stand up before they speak and all the nonsense that goes on in a huge
Yeah.
committee. So that's a reminder of what my opinion is always been.
Yeah, I think we adopted the small rules, and we've pretty much been following that since I can remember.
With a few exceptions.
Yeah. And that the chairman could make a motion.
Exactly right.
That's part of it.
So there's only a couple of pages out of the 800 or whatever.
Yeah.
Robert's Rules.
Okay, any thoughts about that discussion? You brought it up, you have anything further?
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, here's another big one. Customs House issues. We have some concerns with the Custom and Border Protection building, and we are diligently working to address that. We have been notified by Customs and Border that the higher-ups want us to make out a punch list of what needs to be done, give deadlines for each of those issues, and get them corrected according to the deadline. They only gave us so long to do that, and I think once we get the punch list done and figure out what we need to do to get that accomplished, we may have to hire outside resources to do some of it. I'm sure we will. The port operator has agreed to do a lot of the work. We have to make sure that we're complying with whatever regulations we need to comply with as far as upgrading the facility. There's a whole list of things that need to be done. I think you got that in your packet. I hope you did. And we are going to address that. Any questions about that at present?
You know, on February the 19th, Stephen Patriot hand delivered me a letter from Customs and Border Patrol, giving us so many days to do something with this, and I've discussed it several times with this board during the past. I've brought pictures of stuff. I've tried to get contractors to come and do work, and try to get estimates, and I've tried to just get them to come and fix it and give us the bill, because I am allowed to spend quite a few dollars on this customs house. And sometimes when you can't get an estimate, you just have to have it done. But I have not been able to find anyone even interested in doing these jobs. And I talked to Stephen and them about it several times. And I told them, you remember last year I brought all them pictures in and handed them out to each and every one of us. And I believe they give us, 30 days to correct it?
Yes. And the 30 days started February the 8th, 2021. He hand delivered me the letter February the 19th at 1 p.m. at the Pig Barbecue in Callahan. So, and I said, I had him send y'all the letter also, and Mr. Magucci the letter, so. The Customs House does need extensive work done to it, and, if get someone to do it, I haven't been able to find anyone that's even interested in doing it. Any luck, Chris? Any of it?
Chris, you wanna comment on it?
Yeah, I think what's missing from the debate is the latest development, which is,
Right.
notice of visit from the City of Fernandina Beach Code Enforcement. I know, I made that available to you, Mr. Chairman, is that correct?
Yes.
I've used it too.
And I have it.
We all have it,
Everyone?
we all have it.
Yeah. So, the inspector produced a punch list on the notice of visit. And of course, the city is now weighing in on this and saying that you have 5 days to discuss compliance with the city or bring the property into compliance by April 8th of 21, which is completely unreasonable. And of course, failure to do so will result in an official written notice with possible outcome of fines. What's gotten more complicated, Scott, even from the struggles Commissioner Franklin has had finding contractors, is now at the bottom of the city's notice of visit, they remind the Ocean Highway Port Authority that it needs to pull all required building permits. We had planned to do some work voluntarily. We even purchased some wood at the request of Commissioner Cole and also an electrical cabinet. But as I discussed with Chairman Fullwood, I think in the first instance, OHPA may need to hire an architect to decide what permits. Is it just a city building permit for renovation? Is it a historic district council permit? And then anyone that's going to try to pull that permit has to be a licensed building contractor in the state of Florida. So that rules out the operator being able to help on a voluntary basis, will get you a further fine for a non-authorized contractor. So the city has really complicated the issue here, and all the good efforts and good faith we both tried to show to work this out with Customs, because we have a partnership with them as well, and a relationship is sort of kind of been monkey wrench been thrown into it by this notice of visit. So I really think you guys need some professional help to sort this out first, and then we've got to find the right contractor.
I don't think, and I'm gonna qualify this in a minute, that the city can come in and demand we do anything with that house. We lease that house to Customs and Border, the federal government. According to what I read in our Port Authority charter, they don't have any authority to come tell us what to do. We're already addressing that situation.
With the lawsuit stuff.
Right, with the punch list, and there's already been lumber delivered there for someone to address the porch issues.
Right.
And we have to find other people that can do the work.
But with
The operator will do what they can to address things.
no, but what's going to be a trouble now, and I know this from being a contractor, nobody's going to want to touch it because the city red flagged it.
Well,
That's
here's the thing.
a tricky situation. That's why I was asking.
According to Section 7 of our charter on specific powers,
Bless you.
says the authority shall have the following powers in addition to all other powers confirmed by this act. Section 12, control or jurisdiction over the authority. It shall not be necessary for the authority to obtain any certificate of convenience or necessity, franchise, license, permits or other authorizations therefrom from any county, municipality, or political subdivision of the state. And this act shall be in full and complete authority for the powers granted in this act.
Right.
To me, that exempts us from their authority to tell us how to handle that building. Bob, am I correct?
Yes, you are.
We had this problem with the tent though, and they tried to step all over us with it. That's where this is gonna be a
Well, they're
problem.
doing it again.
They're doing it again, right away.
We voluntarily, based on an agreement that was negotiated by Jeff, your former council, and the city, agreed, we didn't waive or establish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But we agreed to file for a permit.
For the-
We were delayed because we only then found out you need a Florida contractor license, we got that. And then, of course, we had to wait to resolve some issues with the CLO and all of that.
Right.
But the problem is, the issue of, are you regulated by the city on these, that's a core issue.
We're right back into it. They stepped on us again, yeah. And that's why I asked, because I saw that paperwork.
So
And I know as a contractor, you run for the hills with that kind of crap.
I am not worried about the city building inspector. We've been told that they cannot do that. It says right here in writing. And, we're complying, we're trying to comply with what is needed there.
Right.
May I make a suggestion?
But we're in just a second. And we want to comply with it. We want to get that building fixed to their specifications. And they've given us the time limit to do that. We've come up with a punch list. We've gone over the punch list. We visited the customs house. A couple of commissioners have been there. Several commissioners have been there. Talked to Steve Parrott. We've talked to the operator and asked him to fix what they could fix, because ultimately it's their responsibility,
Right.
not ours.
They want
Their
customs people.
Customs and Border Protection is there for them.
Right.
If we don't get this done, they'll move back to Jacksonville somewhere, and then they'll have to call them over here every time they need them,
Right.
which will cost money
Right.
for them. So ultimately it's their responsibility. It's not really on us, but
But again, it's the city trying to step on us and what we're trying to get done.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get done what we need to do, but I'm not gonna pay any attention to
The price.
building inspector
Okay.
and reply to him.
Okay.
If they wanna sue us, that's up to them. They're good at suing people.
Right. More litigation.
So,
Yes, comment?
Yeah, so I've, actually represented some private citizens in code enforcement matters for both cities. And I also was the code enforcement special magistrate, but for noise and dog leash violations, which was a story for another day. But my experience is that, in the past, they did not enforce, proactively go and inspect properties that were not compliant. It was complaint driven. So if your neighbor complained about your grass being too high, then they would go and enforce. But then they hired an additional person, and so now they actually do on their own inspections. But my understanding for this is that the reason it was flagged is because of the public nature of the complaint from our tenants. And so because it's sort of like out there in the public that our tenant's complaining, then it becomes elevated to the city, and then they go and inspect. And so that's how it came to be at the code enforcement office in the first place. But the second point is that the code enforcement board, if you go in front of them, or if you talk with them and you say, we're trying to get this property into a safe condition, but we're not going to completely rehab it because we're going to replace it. So if you let them know that the structure is going to be made safe on a temporary basis, public safety is cared for, they will work with you on the fines, and they will not impose fines if you're moving things forward. And so they need to know that the structure is going to be replaced. I know we've had letters back and forth about preserving that structure and the city receiving that structure and potentially moving it to another location within the historic district. So I would suggest that we might coordinate with them on it and at least go and speak with them about it. Because the whole point of code enforcement is, of course, public safety, which I think is also one of our big values as well and purposes.
I wouldn't have had any problem if they'd asked us ahead of time, what are you doing about this situation that's been complained about?
Yeah, they came in and red flagged it.
The city building inspector was asked who sent him here, and he said it came from the highest authorities in the city. Now, I will find out who that is, and I will let you know.
But at the end of the day, we still have to address the issue, right?
We're addressing the issue, that's what I'm talking about, you know, and I think they know now. That I guess we need to send them a letter saying we're addressing the issues.
You can do anything from send them a letter,
Sure.
meet with them to file,
Or call,
call, yeah.
phone call. Okay?
Since when do you have to get, when does the city start requiring building permits to do regular maintenance on your property? I mean, this is just regular maintenance that needs to be done.
For doors, for windows, you wouldn't believe how many things you have to pull permits for. And in some jurisdictions, cities will not, exact the fees for a permit if you're trying to come into compliance because of a code enforcement violation. So that's one of the tools in their toolbox, is to waive their permit fees. Right now, they don't do that.
Well, you know, code enforcement applies to city property, city-owned property, or people that live in the city that own property in the city. It does not apply to our special district.
Right.
You know, it says that right here. It's in writing.
Yeah, it's been discussed multiple
And so
times.
we'll let them know we're addressing the issue and we'll take care of it, but we won't be bullied and held to a deadline. We have a deadline with the Customs and Border Protection. We'll deal with them because that's the important part, so.
I just have one more thing to say, and then I'll shut up, I promise, on this issue. That I think the public doesn't like government entities fighting with each other. And I think that we want to have a good-looking building, and we want to have a safe building. And when the public walks by a building that's falling down, I don't think that reflects well on any of us. And so I think we should be, worried first and foremost about the form following function, as opposed to a personal, what feels like a personal affront from the city.
Yeah, but
I agree with that, and we're addressing the issue. That's the whole point. We understand it needs repairs, and we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna make sure that gets taken care of. But the city's not gonna come in and demand of us that we do this and that, and give us a deadline for doing it. They can't do that. And if they can, show me the law that says they can. I just showed you the one that says they can't.
Mhm.
Okay?
I agree.
Any other discussion about this?
Are we going to try to find an architect to do an estimate of what it takes just to get it safe? Local architect?
I don't know about an architect. I think we could find a building contractor that could come in and tell us the same thing.
I think it's important to note that the notice of visit does not cite safety in any way.
Yeah.
It checks one category, exterior structure, maintenance, repair. No one said anything's unsafe. There's some work that needs to be done, rotting wood on the porch and the banisters, but beyond that, the way I read this, it's mostly cosmetic, painting, scraping, replacing rotted wood. There's some sills under the windows. That's not a public safety issue.
Right.
There's some electrical boxes. We already purchased one, but now we'd be afraid to install it because we don't want worldwide terminals to be fine. So we'll have to figure out, what to do about that. But we were trying. You're absolutely right.
I know several contractors. I could inquire, what they would charge to come out and look at that, to see electrical contractors. I know one that might could give us some sort of estimate or something. I know several, but
We don't have to follow procurement if it's under 50. Bob, could you advise us on how we can go about hiring a contractor or having a contractor do an estimate?
they'll do an estimate for nothing, most of them. Bob?
Yes.
Hey, so So if we need
Speak in the
to,
microphone so we're.
if we need to hire a contractor or just solicit bids for the custom towers, do we have to follow a particular procurement process?
No. The regular procurement process that everyone thinks of is, applies to agencies, and in that context, we're not an agency. You pretty much do what you want, but I encourage you to follow those procedures.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So do we need to, publish a bid for this work, or can we solicit bids the way Danny was describing?
It's your choice, whatever the board wants.
If it's just painting and caulking and under $50,000, when would we trigger, what point do we trigger the competitive bid process?
Those thresholds don't apply to a special district.
But you said you encourage us to follow it.
Well, it's a matter of process. I don't mean pretend you're an agency. I just mean when you go through an RFP process, do it as you would if you were required to under the statute.
Right. There is no threshold of financial aspect that we need to adhere to in order to get something done that I know of. And if we get an estimate, that's just an estimate. And then we'll decide on whether we want that contractor or another contractor to do it, or we'll put out bids or whatever. I understand what you're saying.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm authorized to spend how much a year on that custom house, Mr. Pierre, without getting in the
Tell you
estimates?
what, I can't get into my,
Pierre, do you know?
for my other computer. What's that?
Without getting in the estimates, but I've tried to get people to come out and look at these problems. And right now, all these contractors, they don't want this kind of job. They don't want, if you know someone that's willing to come and look at it and give me a rough estimate, I am willing to work with them. And I have the authority to spend
Zero, unfortunately. Sorry.
zero.
We removed that money from the budget. We used to have $8,000 for maintenance of the custom house.
Okay.
Obviously, because we no longer receive grants, we removed, there is no amount for maintenance.
Well, no, I didn't want to say anything.
It's all deficit spending.
Yeah.
So whatever you spend, there's no revenue coming in to offset. So you were authorized to spend what was in the budget.
If Rural Ride is willing to do some of this work for us and all, I don't see no reason why they'd have to go get a permit from the city to do regular maintenance on a house or anything else, you know?
Well, I can't take that chance, because if they wanna fine us, then I'm stuck with a fine. And, you know, it's not our expertise. We wanna volunteer and support a contractor, provide some labor and material, but now that it's descended to this level, I mean, you know, we have to keep customers here, that's for sure. But, you guys have a lease arrangement where you agreed to keep it in working condition, and I just think we've got to find a way to do that and just fulfill the obligations to Customs and Border until we get the new building set up.
Danny, there's a lot of issues. It's the building, the age, and opening a can of worms. And now that the city's involved, like I said, you're really gonna have people running. Because once you open it, it's like electrical. If I go in a house and I work on the breaker box, I gotta update the whole electrical service. I can't just touch the breaker box, because if the outside equipment is rusted out, it's my responsibility. It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So now that the city has, and I'm sure Carol's done with this anyway, but people know, contractors know, you do a little, they require a lot. And once you touch it, they're the one responsible. And that becomes the issue. That's where we're gonna have problems, because of the age of the building and the conditions. I mean, it's an old building, it's gonna have these problems. But routine maintenance could have been done as a general, you know, application. But now that the city has their little stamps on it, it really is gonna be an issue.
Commissioner Franklin has been over there. I know that you've been over there, Commissioner Fullwood. I went over there, I spoke with Mr. Parrott. I even measured what we needed to fix the steps and to make the handrails. And I went and priced the material, And I gave Mr. Regucci a list of those materials at our last special meeting, and Worldwide went out and purchased those materials. I was going to go over myself, volunteer, and
Hammer and nail it, yeah. That's what I'm saying, like,
I can't do it now.
No, that's the
Yeah.
problem. The city has now put a cap on anything and everything, because nobody's gonna wanna touch it. It's like that one in Miami where I got,
But that was unfortunately one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's about 7 or 8 categories here. And they remarkably mimic the 7 or 8 items.
Same things that we talked about.
February 8th letter to Commissioner Franklin, so.
So I don't think a stop work order is the same thing as a code enforcement violation. So like when you said red flag, that's a stop work order.
well, it's the same thing, contractors won't wanna touch it.
Yeah, well, I know.
It's not about stop work.
I've helped clients hire contractors to fix issues for code enforcement. I know it's tricky, I get what you're saying, but I think if we go to the building department and ask what permits would be required for the work, then we'll know whether we're talking about $100, a couple $100, or something that's insurmountable.
That's the thing, they're making it insurmountable, is what I'm saying to you. You gotta understand from a contractor standpoint, they're not gonna wanna get involved in a pissing contest with the city they work in. So now when they get involved with it, because they wanna help the port out and maybe do some volunteer work to fix some things, it's a whole big ballgame now. That's all. I've been there, I've done it, I've been in.
I think we're missing the point. I think if
Special
you're,
district.
if you're in the special district that we're in, they cannot do that.
They can, but they can. That's my point. You gotta understand, as a contractor working with the city, they're gonna look at other projects you're doing in a different light. So I've been there, I've done it, I've had it happen.
I mean, they'll take it out on you on other projects.
There's ways to get around
They
it.
wouldn't do that.
No, not a city, you're
No,
kidding me.
Not the city of Fernandina.
Not the city of Miami Beach.
Mr. Chairman, I want to specify something I said earlier about the lawsuit. Because of what Commissioner Hanna is saying, the lawsuit I was referring to is called the declaratory judgment. In fact, the city has one against us now, intended to the breach of contract claim. Because of the harm that's being caused by the city's activities, if you go to a court, and it would be relatively inexpensive to just ask the court to declare that the city is not permitted under our charter to come in and do this, because it apparently is going to keep happening. Just want to throw that out. Whatever.
That might be something to look into, because I'm telling you,
Okay, we'll do that,
they might not be allowed to, but they're going to.
and we'll get hold of the city building inspector and let him know that we're addressing the issue and see where they go from there. All right, any other comments about that?
What are we gonna tell, Customs and Border Patrol?
I would tell them that the city is involved, and right now,
Same thing I've
Yeah.
already told them, that we will
we're trying.
address the issues and get them fixed, one way or the other.
Your hands are tied right now, my friend.
City of Fernandina Beach Planning Advisory Board Comprehensive Plan Amendments.
I requested this to be put on. This is an update about the changes that the Planning Advisory Board will consider. Right now, it's in a workshop. We have a work group that's headed by Janice Minshew, and Victoria Robas is also on that work group. She was formerly at Jacksport, so she has direct knowledge of the requirements of ports, and she has been a great voice for the reasons why we requested, and then I say we, the OPA board requested certain changes to the comprehensive plan. And that's here, and so policy 9, this is what is currently the law. This is the current comprehensive plan. And then the red line that's in the packet is what was proposed in 2014. And Mark Bennett is also on this workshop panel, and he has explained some of the history of the 2014 changes, and a lot of them were in response to Lignitech and some of the other issues that, coal being transferred, liquefied natural gas, other concerns, as well as expansions in the historic district, which is, as you know, a sensitive issue for the city. And so they're going through and they're basically trying to cut out as much of this as they can to make it more streamlined, which a comprehensive plan really should be like the Bible, and then your land development code flows from that. But some of these things almost come off as punitive, and what I appreciate is that this committee seems to get that, and they are moving away from that. So I'm hopeful that what comes out of this committee would be something that would be palatable and would be a starting document for this board to consider, and then to provide, comments. And I'm sure there will be things in there we don't like. And I told them that, and I told them that any of my comments don't represent what the board will ultimately vote on or what I would vote on, but I'm just trying to gauge certain things.
Will they send us the document once they've completed their work to find out from us if we have any objection to any of the elements?
Yeah.
And then we can tell them what we object to, and then they'll make the final determination.
My understanding, well, I said yes too soon. My understanding is that this committee would finalize their comments, and then they would circulate a draft both to us for our comments and to the Planning Advisory Board, because this is just a workshop.
Yes.
And then from there, it goes to the city commission. So this is the very early stage, but we're hoping to have everything wrapped up by May.
So the PAB will have to adopt their recommendations and then send it to the city for adoption.
I don't know if the PAB has to adopt the recommendations. I would think they would adopt the recommendations. But again, the city can still do whatever they want.
Sure.
Because it's advisory.
Of course.
So we meet every 2 weeks right now. And if you, looking at this, because some of you were here, and there are specific provisions in here that might be not palatable to you, that you definitely would never agree to.
Oh, yes, I've looked through it.
It could be helpful for this board to also go ahead and start thinking about what we would not accept, so that I can be a little bit more productive and ahead of the ball. So I don't know the best way to get that done.
Well, we need to know what they're thinking first. I mean, if they've taken a lot of things out of the old document, we need to know what those are, what they plan to put in the new one, until
My understanding is that this was not agreeable to OPA.
Correct. The previous.
The 2014 proposal.
We adopted our master plan, and they had to incorporate our master plan into their master plans.
Correct.
And they would not accept our master plan because of the four element part.
Right. The Florida statutes require them to have a fourth element in the comp plan.
Right.
And then what they have in their fourth element, by the statute, it has to incorporate our strategic plan, and then they can list all of their local concerns. So they, by law, are required to have coastal management. There's like a litany, it's like 7 or 8 items. They have to have each of those components. But then the last thing on the list is any local government concerns. And so that one term has led to a litany of items, including not expanding in the historic district, traffic on city roads, hazardous materials of support. And so some of those things really do constrain potential operations. So we need to think about wordsmithing for emergency response. I mean, if we needed to have a separate laydown yard to handle for contingency planning in the instance of a hurricane, that wouldn't be allowed if it was anywhere in the city limits under the way it's being drafted. So I've been raising those concerns, and they're being responsive at this level.
Okay, you made the statement just a minute ago, we meet. Does that mean you're on the board?
I'm on the workshop.
You're on the workshop board, the committee?
It's a workshop.
Is that legal?
Legal, wrong word.
Okay.
I sense the possibility of a conflict, but just from what I know about the sunshine law, she's allowed to do that.
She's allowed to attend the meetings, but be a member of the committee?
It gets in involved in voters.
If we don't appoint her, if we don't appoint her to be a member?
Right, that's what it gets into. That's a very personal, serious question that I prefer to research before I answer it off the top of my head.
I think we need to be careful.
This is the first
No,
I've
I
heard
thought
it.
at the meeting you did,
I don't think I said you were assigned
I
to.
think we did take
You were
a vote on it, because
we
I've been
asked-
going to I've been actually attending these PAB workshop meetings.
Attending the meeting is one thing, being on the committee is totally different to me. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not a legal attorney or,
You did ask her to attend the meeting.
I know this. I know.
Yeah, and I
And we
didn't
should
keep
all
it a
attend the
secret.
meeting.
I didn't keep it a secret that it was a workshop that was being formed for this specific purpose. I briefed the board, and you all, I don't know that we had a vote. I'd have to check the video, but you did appoint me as the liaison to this PAB workshop.
We appointed you to attend the meetings, but not be on the committee.
Well, I'll tell you, the workshops so far have not had any public comment, so I would be able to attend, but I wouldn't be able to comment if that's the case.
Well, you shouldn't comment unless you're speaking for the board. And then if we don't know what you're commenting about, I'm not sure if you should do that either. You're supposed to attend the meetings and report back to us what they talk about. That's the way I understood it. I don't know about the rest of it.
Well, they know, and I remind us of every meeting, that anything that I'm contributing is not an OHPA contribution. It's just my personal contribution to the meeting.
Would you look that up?
I'll look that up, and, I'll draft a memo, and, my biggest concern, Commissioner Hill, is the, possibility, if not the likelihood, that there could be litigation, like we've discussed before, flowing from a fight between PAB rules account plan and our master plan. I mean, depending on the city's attitude towards what we do, you may be sitting on an advisory board that is headed towards litigation.
And that would be a conflict. Our master plan, we cannot do our master plan and incorporate anything from the city in it until we know what those things are. I mean, we'll incorporate into our master plan whatever we can from the port element that will not conflict with our constitution, our charter, our operating agreement, and harm the port.
I don't think there's actually going to be a conflict for me serving on this board any more than there would be a conflict for
I hope
Commissioner
not.
Hall serving on the TPO, discussing funding that comes to Nassau County or goes to another county. He's speaking as our liaison to that board, and he does not have any delegated authority. He's only gathering information, and he serves on the TPO.
I don't think that's
Because
the
members
same.
that serve on
We're
the
not in
TPO sit on the
litigation
board.
with TPO.
No.
We're not possibly heading towards.
This is an advisory body. It's a subset of an advisory body.
We'll find out if it's legally, okay. If it is, then
Just say,
Yeah, we could allow it.
you could find out what exactly was said.
Yeah, I think it would be good if we could pull that meeting when it was, when we discussed what we were doing originally.
so if I went to the meeting and I'm not on the committee, I would not be allowed to speak.
It's up to the chair.
Oh, well, that won't happen then, because I know who the chair is.
I wasn't permitted to speak. I attended one of the meetings.
Where was I?
Good.
I didn't see you try to speak. You were lording over
Okay,
everyone
no,
from the
we're
corner.
not going there. All right. Stop. We just went over something, not to do that. All right. All right, I think we all should attend those meetings, and just get an idea of what's going on, and, until, we're gonna be doing an RFP for our master plan soon, and I hope we'll have a document.
Can we attend them? I thought there was a conflict if we
Let
go.
me jump in.
Oh,
When you said you should all attend them, you meant one at a time, and you understand that the commissioners can't go together to do an event where it might result, or could possibly result in a decision.
Yeah, because I asked that before, and I was told, no, it's not a good idea to go. There'd be more than two.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Gather two more commissioners, or gather together.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
That thing. So, go through.
Maybe that's why we asked her to go to the meetings and bring back information to us, but not be on the committee itself.
I don't, if I had received that direction, I definitely wouldn't have volunteered my free time to do it, but thank you.
Okay, sure.
I
And if
think
you don't
it's been
want to
a
continue doing that,
No, I think it's been a productive process. I would never have gone out of the way to do something that I was not authorized to do. So I did this because I was authorized to do it. And I think it's been a productive process, and I think that any member of the public or this board or otherwise is welcome to attend those meetings and observe them. And there's no issue with them doing so. If there's a thought that we might attend a public meeting and we might inadvertently engage in conversation and that might appear improper to the public, we can do a notice of gathering. Or notice that we're going to be in the same room.
yeah,
There are ways around it. Feel free to attend.
okay. No further discussion on that. Next thing is commissioner emails. I'm gonna strike that because of the time. Public discourse, we talked about that. All right, let's go to committee reports. I have, there were no issues for port security. I have no report for that. Cousins House, we've already talked about that, unless there's anything else you want to add, Commissioner Franklin? Good. Army Corps of Engineers, there has been nothing with them except what we've already talked about tonight. Economic Development, Commissioner Cole.
Nothing new to report at this time.
You can't talk about any projects that
We do have a project that's in process, but it's not, nowhere near to discuss it at this point.
Okay, so it's still private.
Correct.
The company does not want any discussion as of yet.
My understanding correct.
We're in discussion to bring some business
To the county, correct.
to the county.
Yep.
Yeah, okay?
It's very positive, but we just,
Yeah,
you know, can't.
I know what it is.
Yep.
So hopefully that'll happen.
Yes.
It'll sure be great for this county if it does. All right, Emergency Management, Commissioner Franklin, have you had any meeting with them?
Don't have anything to report on it.
Do they have meetings?
Do what?
Are they having meetings?
I haven't. They hadn't notified me in a while, and
Maybe you need to call them and see. Maybe they forgot about you.
they probably have.
TCC.
Nothing new this week. We had a Zoom meeting the other day. They're just discussing some projects that they're looking into getting approval for in the next 20 years with regards to widening some of the roads. But it's whoa.
Anything in Napa?
They're talking about, a couple roads.
Got a few things.
They actually were talking about a bike path too.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
But I mean, I'm gonna be buried before the bike path. It's the process is crazy to me. I just don't understand.
Okay, TPO?
Having a meeting tomorrow. Nothing new to report. Yes.
Mr. Vice Chairman, as you know, and I'm not sure if I shared with the chairman, but at your request, we submitted a list of priority projects to be included in the updated report of regional priority projects.
Yes, sir.
So I'm happy to share that with anyone, if anybody's interested to see that.
Can I see that, Chris, if you don't mind?
Sure. We'll send it around.
Because I'll see what's going on with the,
Send it out to everybody.
TCC will talk about it, because believe me, the stuff they're talking about is.
Yes.
Nassau Chamber, East Side. Commissioner Hill, you got anything?
Yes, I actually had a meeting with Regina Duncan, and one of the things she shared with me was that the pandemic has revealed some of our weaknesses, but also our strengths of the county. And one of the great things is that mills and industry have supported our economy. and that's a success story for the port, that's a success story for industry, which we typically have a little bit of that struggle when you have a tourism-driven economy. But the tourism collapse is really what reveals a lot of weakness, as well as a lack of understanding about what the other businesses are in the county. And she wanted some input about how they might go about really understanding the businesses in our county and how better to meet their needs. In the city, there's a business license, but the county doesn't have that requirement. And so it's just a lot harder to track who the businesses are and what their needs might be. But that's it. Any ideas on that, I'll carry them out.
Okay. West side?
Well, the chamber now has a newsletter. Well, they've always had a newsletter coming out, but now on the front page of their newsletter, it does list the tonnage report, and it shows the report from last year, and it has a little red arrow showing that it was down. That's not a factor that the port needs to be judged on because of the fluctuating of our tonnage. So you can't go on what was done last year and do a little green arrow up or red arrow down and get dissuade or disillusion the public about how the port is doing. The port is doing well. And I'll expand on that in just a second.
Who started that in the newsletter?
I'm not sure. I don't know how it was done, what was the...
All right,
That's all got? Okay. I'd just like to say that, on that same beat there, there's not a lot of negative things to report about our meeting tonight, for the public, for media, for social media. We tonight had a great tonnage, an improved tonnage report. We agreed to engage hiring a administrative assistant. We agreed to hire an attorney. We've discussed what was necessary to purchase 2 new cranes that will help business of the port. Positive things. Quit diving into the negative. That's all we hear about.
Well,
all I hear about, excuse me.
I just have one comment about that. We've seen a lot of negativity in the local newspaper recently.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote an article myself in response to some of that. I don't usually do things like that, but I thought it was necessary at the time, and then the next week, something else came out. So, all I'm asking is that maybe the newspaper, before they write an article, might want to check with whoever that article is calling out or talking about. They might want to check with somebody and find out if the information they're printing is accurate. That's all I have. If it's accurate information, print it if you want to print it. But if it's not, we're going to start calling you out.
Taken out of context.
That was a good article you wrote.
What's that?
That was a good article you wrote. Yes, it was.
Thank you.
And you too, Mr. Stokes.
Yeah, very caught up.
Well, it needed to be done. And I guess more is going to need to be written.
The newspaper writes what they want to write. I mean, I see articles is voted in, and I stay awake at these meetings, and I don't see the things talking about they talk about.
So,
But anyhow, they sell papers that way.
I'm trying to work with the editorial department and to let us put a weekly or at least a monthly
rebuttal
article in there about the port, the positive stuff we're doing at the port, and what's actually going on. Maybe that would help.
That'd be great.
We thought years ago to do a newsletter that we put out to the public, but that just never got done. That's something we might be able to do with our new office manager if she wants. I talked to her about that actually, and she said she might be willing to do that. So that might help.
Okay.
All right, City of Fernandina, Commissioner Hill.
So in addition to the PAB workshops, I've also met with with Dale Martin, the manager, with Tammy Bach, and, discussed several items that, they requested. So with regard to that interlocal agreement that we, circulated, we received a draft. They wanted to know if that was our final draft, or if we had any additional revisions to that document. I don't think it's been updated since Jeb crafted the interlocal agreement.
I wrote one that I made my last revision to March 2nd, but,
Okay. Okay,
I don't
so
know.
if that draft is approved by this board, they wanted to receive it as a city.
We have not decided to offer that draft as yet and make any final draft out of it. We haven't discussed it at length at a meeting, and until we do that, we're not going to submit it to anybody. Right now, it's just been pulled because of for several reasons, and I'm not gonna go into that now. But, hopefully in the future, we'll do that. Just wanted to see if we could come to some agreement with the city that would help them stop harassing us so much.
I think it was a good start, and.
That's a good start,
Yeah,
it is.
and so, I think we should build on that and.
Oh, we will, certainly will.
It wasn't on the agenda tonight to, take
No.
any action on it, but, I'll make sure that it's on the agenda for our next meeting, because that was received well. And I did share the draft. I think I've already told the whole board that I shared the draft saying that it wasn't final, it hadn't been approved, and it wasn't being offered. And Tammy held back on sharing it with the full board until, we, stated that it was final.
Is that something you want to put on the agenda maybe at our workshop?
That would be
Give us
great.
more time?
That would be great.
We can do that, Bart.
Oh, we
Is this
didn't.
a workshop or a special meeting?
Special meeting.
Yeah, we haven't set that date yet. We didn't.
No, we're gonna get to that. We'll
Okay.
get to it.
Okay.
And this is the interlocal agreement?
I'm sorry?
This is the interlocal agreement with the city?
Yes. When is the next workshop, PAB workshop, committee workshop?
March 24th at 3:00.
3:00. Okay. We might do a notice of gathering. I might decide to do that, so more than one commissioner can attend if they want to.
What day is it?
March 24th at 3:00 at the city hall.
Oh, I won't be able to.
Be good if our attorney could attend also, I think, just to listen. Okay? Any other comments about that? Do you have anything else for the city?
Yeah, well, I was looking at my list. Interlocal agreement, pilot payment, I know it hasn't been an order yet for the pilot payment to speed bump. There hasn't been an order issued by the judge. Is that correct?
Judge Ballgren has been out of town,
Okay.
and then Ashley said that he'd get to it first thing next week.
Okay, and is there a transcript from the hearing or anything else?
I noticed there was a court reporter there, apparently hired by the city, and, I was able to get a recording of it, visual and audio, from Ashley.
Judge Falgren mentioned that. He said if anybody wants a copy of the hearing, they're welcome to it. They get them a copy. So I said, just contact his office and.
It's called Ashley.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just something that, was on my list for city stuff.
You didn't see the hearing?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But if I can, I would love to watch it.
Yeah, it's available.
Okay. And then the code enforcement, we've already discussed that. And then Tammy Cossack, who, she had a truck was parked on Dave Street. She lives right at the corner. She lives across the street from the sign that says no parking. And it's on the truck, right on Dave Street. I don't know the cross street. Maybe second. But she was very gracious when I spoke with her. She said she hasn't had any other issues since, Chris, contacted, I guess, the driver, or must have talked to some of the drivers about not parking there. And then one day I drove past and I caught a guy parking there, but he was not idling, so good job. But I am trying to, you know, walk that route and, run that route when I can, because it helps me to validate the complaints I hear or not, as to whether or not trucks are indeed idling on Dane Street. But that was a noise complaint that I was copied on, by Commissioner Ross.
I know there's a lane there that they have to park in while they're waiting to get in the gate. Was it within that lane?
He was parked in the lane, and his engine was off.
Okay, well,
So
should be
her
complained
complaint was
about
that there were
that.
two trucks idling, after
Right.
hours. And so since then, I was trying to validate, I said, do you have any pictures of what's happening or anything else? She said no, but she did appreciate that I followed up with her.
Okay,
That's it.
all right, office manager report.
My report was in the meeting packet, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Thank you for all the work you've done getting us a new office manager.
Yes, ma'am.
We appreciate everything, getting the interview stuff set up. Really done an excellent job with that, so thank you. All right, let's set the date for our special meeting. You want to try for next week?
Now, the earliest you could have it with noticing in the paper,
Will be the 18th,
March 30th.
March 30th?
Well, I can't submit it until the 16th, the paper for publication on the 19th. We've already missed the Friday deadline this week, and then we can have the meeting 7 days after the notice.
After the notice is published,
Correct.
and it would be published when?
On the 19th. Weekday.
We can get it published on the 17th?
What's that Friday?
Friday
They
is,
only run legal ads on the 19th, on
oh,
the Friday.
that's right, legal ad. The 29, 30, 31?
I counted to the 30th, let me look at the
Let's
calendar.
see, if it's on the 19th,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 days would be the 30th.
I'm available the 30th, not the 31st.
You don't count weekend days?
They're weekdays.
everybody okay with the 30th?
Bless you.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Time?
It would have to be after around
3:30.
3:30 if you wanted me to be there.
We definitely want you to be there. All right, 3:30, how about, is the chamber here available?
I will inquire.
I don't see anything on the
I don't see
calendar.
anything on their
but
calendar.
They could have other committee meetings. Yeah, check it. If not, we'll have to we'll have to use another facility. Okay, the 30th at 3:30. Any other items to be brought by the commissioners? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
At this time, we should call you Melvin.
No. I can see the clock. Well, we had a lot to cover tonight.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
I think we got.
But we always had a lot to cover with Melvin.
Yeah, I know. He was never ending, was he?
Yeah.